Somewhere along the way, we learned to believe that life must be forced, that if we stop chasing, holding, and worrying, what is meant for us will disappear. Buddhism teaches something different. What truly belongs on your path does not need fear to keep it there. The 30 stories ahead are about people who waited, doubted, lost hope, and tried to control what life had not yet revealed. People afraid of being forgotten, people tired of closed doors, people wondering why their path looked different from everyone else's. These are not stories about blind faith. They are stories about learning when to act, when to wait, and when to let go. About discovering that sometimes life is not denying you, it is quietly leading you somewhere better. We begin with a farmer who kept working beneath a sky that gave him nothing. Wherever you are right now, especially if you have been waiting for something that has not come, this story is for you. The poorest farmer in the village was also the one who prepared most carefully. This confused everyone. The rain had not come. The earth had become hard. The small river near the village had narrowed until children could cross it without lifting their clothes above their knees. Every morning the farmer walked into his field carrying a worn wooden hoe. He broke the dry soil. He pulled weeds from ground where nothing was growing. He repaired the narrow channels that would carry water between the rows, even though there was no water to carry. The other farmers watched him. Some laughed. Some felt sorry for him. A few became angry because another person's hope can feel like an insult when we have already given up. They said, "Why are you working? Look at the sky." The farmer looked. It was empty. No clouds, no wind carrying the smell of rain, nothing that promised relief. He said, "The sky is doing what the sky is doing. I am preparing the earth." This was not an answer they liked. People often want trust to look like certainty. They want the trusting person to know what will happen. They want proof. They want signs. They want the future to introduce itself before they are willing to move toward it. But the farmer had no proof. He did not know whether rain would come the next day, the next month, or not at all. He knew only what belonged to him: the soil, the hoe, the work of his own hands. This is where the story begins, not with rain, with the absence of it. Most of us know this place, the place where we have done what we can and life has not answered. A door remains closed. A person does not return. A prayer seems to disappear into silence. A plan that once felt certain begins to fall apart. We look at the empty sky of our own lives and ask the same question the villagers asked the farmer. Why keep preparing when nothing is coming? The farmer had asked this too. He was not free from doubt. At night, he lay on a thin mat beside the wall of his small house and listened to the insects outside. His grain jar was almost empty. His sandals were splitting. The roof needed repair. He knew that effort did not force the clouds to gather. He knew that goodness did not guarantee reward. He knew that people could work hard and still lose everything. Buddhism does not ask us to pretend otherwise. It does not say that life will always give us what we want because we remained patient. It does not say that every delay hides a gift. Some delays are simply painful. Some losses remain losses. Some seasons are dry. The farmer understood this, but he also understood something else. If the rain came and the soil was closed, the water would run away. If the rain came and the channels were broken, the field would flood in one place and remain dry in another. If the rain came and the weeds had taken the land, the crop would have no room to rise. So he worked, not because he controlled the rain, because he did not. This is the difference between trust and passivity. Passivity says, "What is meant for me will come, so I do not need to do anything." Trust says, "I cannot command the outcome, but I can prepare myself to receive what life brings." The farmer did not sit at his doorway waiting for the sky to change. He became ready. There are moments when waiting becomes an excuse. We call it faith, but underneath it is fear. Fear of beginning, fear of failing, fear of discovering that the thing we say we want will ask something difficult from us, So we wait for perfect conditions. We wait to feel confident. We wait for someone to approve. We wait for the path to become clear before taking the first step. The farmer had no clear path. He had dry ground. That was enough. Each morning he entered the field before the heat became unbearable. He loosened one section of soil, then another. He worked slowly because hunger had made his body weak. Some days he managed only a few rows. Still, he returned. There is a kind of courage that looks dramatic. A person stands before danger. A person speaks when others are silent. A person leaves what is familiar and walks into the unknown. And there is another kind of courage that almost no one notices. It wakes up. It repeats the small task. It returns to the same difficult place without applause. It does not know whether the effort will matter. It works anyway. The farmer carried this quieter courage. One afternoon, a young monk passed through the village. He was traveling between monasteries and asked for water. The farmer gave him the last cup from the clay jar he carried into the field. The monk drank and looked over the empty rows. "You have planted nothing," he said. "Not yet," the farmer answered, "and still you prepare." "Yes." "Do you believe rain is coming?" The farmer rested both hands on the hoe. "I believe rain may come." The monk smiled. "That is a careful answer. It is the only honest one." The monk sat beneath a dying tree at the edge of the field. The farmer continued working. After some time, the monk asked, "What will you do if it does not rain?" The farmer did not answer immediately. He struck the earth. The hoe entered only a little. He struck again. Then he said, "I will suffer." The monk watched him. "And what will you do after that?" The farmer struck the earth again. "I do not know." This answer pleased the monk more than any wise saying could have, because the farmer was not pretending to be beyond fear. He was not claiming peace he had not found. He was not using spiritual words to hide from the truth. He was simply standing inside uncertainty without making it larger than it was. This is close to the heart of Buddhist practice, to see what is here, not what we fear will be here forever, not what we demand must come next, only this moment, this breath, this piece of ground, this movement of the hand. The Buddha taught that suffering grows when the mind refuses the nature of life. We want what changes to remain. We want what cannot be controlled to obey us. We want certainty from a world built from conditions that are always moving. Clouds form, clouds separate, seeds open, bodies age, people arrive, people leave. Nothing holds still because we are afraid of losing it. The farmer did not ask the sky to make a promise. He prepared the soil without one. The young monk stayed until evening. Before leaving, he said, "You are practicing more deeply than you know." The farmer laughed. "I am trying not to starve." "Sometimes practice begins there," the monk said. Then he walked toward the road and disappeared beyond the trees. The days continued. The heat grew worse. 2 farmers abandoned their fields and left the village. Another sold his ox. A family packed their belongings onto a cart and followed the road south. The poor farmer remained. This does not mean remaining is always wise. Sometimes the path meant for us requires leaving. Sometimes trust means releasing the place we have tried too hard to save. But this farmer had looked carefully at his life. He had not stayed because he was afraid of change. He stayed because the next honest step was still here. There is no single shape that trust takes. For one person, it is patience. For another, movement. For one, it is holding on. For another, opening the hand. Wisdom is not copying someone else's decision. It is seeing clearly what fear is asking us to do and what truth is asking us to do. The farmer kept preparing. Then one evening the air changed. It happened so quietly that no one noticed at first. The leaves turned their pale sides upward. The birds flew low. A smell rose from the distance, dark and earthy, though the ground was still dry. The farmer stood at the edge of his field. A wind touched his face. Then a drop landed on his arm. He looked at it. One drop. Nothing more. The villagers came outside. No one spoke. Another drop struck the dust near his foot. Then another. The sky opened. Rain fell across the village with a force that made the children shout. People lifted their faces. Some laughed. Some cried. Some stood without moving, because relief can be so large that the body does not know what to do with it. The farmer ran to his field. The channels held. The loosened earth received the water. The weeds did not choke the rows because he had already removed them. The rain did not make his preparation unnecessary. It revealed why the preparation mattered. By morning, the field was dark and soft. The farmer walked between the rows. His feet sank into the mud. Near the far edge of the land, beside a channel he had repaired many times, he saw something caught against a small stone. It was a seed, round, dark, larger than the grain he knew. He lifted it carefully and washed away the mud. An old woman from the village saw it in his hand. "That is a lotus seed," she said. The farmer looked toward his field. There was no pond there, no deep water, no place where a lotus should grow. He turned the seed between his fingers. The rain had brought it from somewhere beyond the village. Perhaps from an old pond. Perhaps from a place no one knew. Perhaps it had traveled farther than any of them could imagine. The farmer carried it home. He placed it in a small bowl of water and waited. But this time, waiting would test him in a different way. The rain had taught him how to prepare for what might come. The seed would teach him how to stop disturbing what had already begun. The rain had taught the farmer how to prepare. The lotus seed would teach him how to stop checking. He kept the seed in a small bowl for 3 days. Every morning he looked at it. Every evening he turned it in his hand. It looked ordinary, dark, hard, silent. Nothing about it suggested a flower. Nothing about it looked alive. Still, the old woman had called it a lotus seed, so the farmer believed there was something inside it that he could not yet see. This is where many kinds of trust become difficult. It is easy to trust something when there are signs, a small green shoot, a clear answer, a person moving closer, a door beginning to open. But what do we do when nothing changes? What do we do when the thing we have planted looks exactly the same after days, weeks, and months? The farmer chose a place near the edge of his field where rainwater gathered. He dug a shallow pond. It was not large. It was only a wide hollow in the earth, lined with stones, and fed by one of the channels he had repaired before the rain came. He pressed the lotus seed into the soft mud. Then he covered it. He stood there for a moment. He imagined a flower rising from the water, white petals, a yellow center, leaves spread across the surface. He imagined villagers coming to see it. He imagined the old woman smiling. Then he went back to work. The next morning he returned to the pond. Nothing. This was expected. A seed does not open in one night. He told himself this. He worked through the day. Before going home he checked again. Still nothing. The second day passed, then the third. On the fourth morning, he touched the mud with one finger. He wondered whether the seed had moved. He wondered whether the water had carried it away. He wondered whether he had planted it too deeply. So he pushed his fingers into the mud and pulled the seed out. It looked the same, dark, hard, silent. He washed it. He studied it. Then he planted it again. This time not as deep. 2 days later, he checked again. Nothing. He waited another day. Then he dug it up. Still nothing. This became his habit. He planted. He waited. He worried. He dug. He checked. He planted again. The farmer who had trusted the sky could not trust the seed. This happens to us. We can be patient in one part of life and frightened in another. We can survive a great loss and still panic over a small delay. We can understand a teaching clearly and fail to live it when the heart becomes attached. Wisdom does not arrive in us all at once. It enters slowly, one experience at a time, one mistake at a time. The farmer knew that crops needed time. He had planted rice and beans for years. He had watched roots form beneath soil where no eye could see them. But the lotus seed felt different. It had come with the rain. It felt important. And because it felt important, he became afraid of losing it. The more we value something, the more we may try to control it. A relationship, a dream, a child, a future we have built in our minds. We begin with care. Then care becomes fear. Fear becomes checking. Checking becomes pressure. Soon we are no longer helping the thing grow. We are disturbing it because we cannot bear not knowing. The farmer visited the pond many times each day. When the sun rose, he checked. When he returned from the field, he checked. Before eating, he checked. Before sleeping, he carried a small lamp outside and looked at the water. The pond showed him only his own face. Tired, worried, waiting. Weeks passed. The rice began to rise in the field. Green covered the land that had once been dry. The villagers became busy. People repaired roofs. Children chased frogs near the river. The village was alive again. But the farmer thought mostly about the seed. One afternoon, the old woman came to his field. She found him kneeling beside the pond with both hands covered in mud. The seed lay in his palm. She looked at it. Then she looked at him. "How many times have you taken it out?" she asked. The farmer felt embarrassed. "Only a few." She said nothing. Her silence made him more honest. "Many times." "Why?" "I want to know if it is growing." The old woman sat beside him. "And has digging it up helped you know?" "No." "Has it helped the seed?" The farmer looked down. "No." "Then why do you keep doing it?" He wanted to give her a good answer. He wanted to say something wise, but the truth was simple. "I'm afraid nothing is happening." The old woman nodded. "Something may be happening. And if it is not, then digging will not create it." He looked at the seed. It still showed no sign of opening. "What should I do?" "Plant it." "I have planted it." "No," she said. "You have placed it in the mud. Planting means leaving it there." Then she stood and walked away. The farmer remained beside the pond. Her words stayed with him. Planting means leaving it there. He pressed the seed back into the mud. He covered it gently. Then he made a promise. He would not dig it up for 7 days. 7 days did not seem long. By the second day, it felt impossible. His mind began giving him reasons. Maybe an animal had eaten it. Maybe the mud had become too cold. Maybe it needed more light. Maybe he should move it closer to the center of the pond. The mind is very skilled at turning fear into advice. It says, check one more time. Send one more message. Ask again. Push harder. Make sure. It rarely says, I am frightened. It hides fear beneath the language of responsibility. The farmer walked to the pond on the 3rd day. He stood at the edge. He almost knelt. Then he remembered the old woman. Planting means leaving it there. He stepped back. On the 4th day, he brought water from the river, even though the pond did not need it. He poured it slowly. He watched the surface. No shoot appeared. On the 5th day, he became angry. He felt foolish. Why had he believed a strange seed could grow there? Why had the rain brought him something that seemed to offer hope, but gave him only worry? He looked at the pond and said, grow. Nothing happened. He said it louder. Grow. The water remained still. This is one of the hardest truths in life. Our urgency does not become nature's urgency. We may be ready. The other person may not be. We may want an answer today. Life may remain silent. We may have learned the lesson. The season may still not change. We suffer because the mind says, it should be happening now. But now is a demand. Life does not always obey it. The Buddha taught that suffering grows from craving. Craving is not only wanting pleasure, it is also wanting reality to move at our chosen speed. We want the seed to open because we are tired of waiting. We want grief to end because we are tired of carrying it. We want healing to be complete because we have already suffered enough. These feelings are human, but life does not measure time by how tired we are. The farmer completed the 7 days. On the 8th morning, he dug up the seed. It was still closed. He felt betrayed. He threw it into the pond. Then he regretted it. He stepped into the muddy water, found it, and planted it again. More weeks passed, then months. The rice became tall. The village prepared for harvest. The lotus pond remained empty. The farmer stopped telling people about it. He did not want their questions. The old woman did not ask. She seemed to understand that some lessons cannot be repeated into a person. They must become painful enough to be seen. One morning, the farmer woke before sunrise. He went to the pond. The water was covered with thin mist. He could barely see the stones. He felt the old fear rise. Maybe today he should dig. Maybe the seed was dead. Maybe he had wasted months. He stood there until the mist began to lift. Then something in him became tired. Not the tiredness of the body, a deeper tiredness. The tiredness of trying to control what could not be forced. He said quietly, "I have done what I can." The words felt like defeat at first. Then they felt like relief. He did not mean that he no longer cared. He did not mean that the seed did not matter. He meant that his care had become harmful. He could water the pond. He could keep the channel clear. He could protect the area from animals. But he could not pull the flower out of the seed. That work belonged to the seed. That work belonged to conditions he could not see. Warmth, water, time, life moving in darkness. The farmer left the pond. He did not check it that evening. The next day, he noticed how much work had been waiting for him. A fence needed repair. Grain needed drying. His roof still leaked near the back wall. He began living again. At first, every task felt like a way to avoid the pond. Then slowly, the pond stopped controlling his mind. He passed it without stopping. He watered it when needed. He cleared fallen leaves. Then he walked away. Days became quieter. He slept better. He ate without looking toward the door. He no longer carried a lamp outside at night. Nothing had changed in the pond, but something had changed in him. He had stopped demanding proof. This is not the same as giving up. Giving up closes the heart. Trust leaves the heart open without keeping the hand inside the soil. Trust says, "I will care for the conditions, but I will not force the result." This is true for many things meant for us. We prepare, we act, we speak honestly, we become ready. Then there comes a point when more effort is not faith. It is fear wearing the clothes of effort. The farmer learned to notice that point. One evening, many months after planting the seed, dark clouds gathered again. A soft rain fell. Not the great rain that had ended the drought. A quiet rain, the kind that barely makes a sound on the roof. The farmer sat inside his house and listened. He thought of the seed, but he did not go outside. He smiled at this. It was a small freedom. The next morning, someone knocked on his door. It was still early. The farmer opened it. A traveler stood there. His clothes were wet. Mud covered his feet. A small bag hung from his shoulder. His face showed the tiredness of someone who had walked a long way without knowing where he would sleep. He bowed and said, "The road flooded behind me. May I stay here until it clears?" The farmer looked past him. The rain had filled the channels. The field shone under the morning light. Near the pond, something small moved beneath the surface. The farmer saw it, a thin green shoot. He almost ran toward it. Then he looked at the traveler again. For months he had waited for the seed to show him something. Now life had placed a person at his door. The farmer stepped aside. "Come in," he said. The lotus had begun to rise, but the traveler would carry the next lesson farther than the farmer's field. The lotus had begun to rise, but the traveler still had no idea where his own life was going. He entered the farmer's house and removed his wet sandals. The room was small. A low table stood near the wall. A clay lamp burned beside a bowl of rice. The farmer gave him dry clothes and placed warm food in front of him. The traveler ate slowly. He looked tired in a way that sleep alone could not fix. The farmer recognized this. Some people are tired because they have walked too far. Others are tired because they have spent too long searching for a place where they can finally stop. The traveler was carrying both kinds of tiredness. After the meal, the farmer asked, "Where are you going?" The traveler looked down at the empty bowl. "I do not know." "Where did you come from?" "I am not sure that matters anymore." The farmer waited. He had learned something from the lotus seed. Not every silence needed to be opened by force. After a while, the traveler spoke again. "I have been walking for years." The farmer looked at the small bag near the door. It did not seem large enough to carry years. "Why?" "I was looking for the place meant for me." The farmer sat across from him. "And how were you going to know when you found it?" The traveler gave a weak smile. "I thought there would be a sign." We understand this. Many of us have lived this way, waiting for life to become clear before we trust it, waiting for a sign that tells us which road to take, which person to love, which work to choose, which place to call home. We want the future to speak in a voice so clear that doubt becomes impossible. But life rarely speaks that way. Most choices arrive quietly, without certainty, without a bright light pointing in one direction. Only a road, a feeling, a small chance, and a mind asking whether another road might be better. The traveler had spent years chasing signs. He told the farmer about the first one. When he was young, an old fortune teller had visited his village. She looked at the lines of his hand and told him that his true life would begin beside a river. So he left home and followed rivers. He worked near one river for 6 months. Nothing happened. He crossed another and met a woman who smiled at him. He thought she might be the sign, but she was waiting for someone else. He lived beside a wide river in a northern town. He waited for his true life to begin. The river changed with the seasons. His life did not. Then, one evening, he saw 3 white birds flying toward the mountains. He remembered a story his mother had told him as a child. In the story, white birds guided a lost prince home, so he followed them. The birds disappeared before sunset. The traveler continued toward the mountains anyway. There, he met a merchant who told him that wealth was the clearest sign of being on the right path. So the traveler worked for the merchant. He carried cloth, counted coins, traveled between towns. For 2 years, he believed money would make him feel that he had arrived. It did not. Then the merchant lost everything in a fire. The traveler decided this was another sign. He left. He entered a temple where a monk told him that attachment caused suffering. The traveler gave away most of what he owned. But even after giving away his possessions, he remained attached to finding the perfect direction. This is possible. We can release objects and still cling tightly to an idea. We can leave a house and remain trapped in the life we thought we should have lived. We can stop chasing money and begin chasing peace with the same hunger. The object changes. The grasping remains. The traveler left the temple. He followed dreams. He followed rumors. He followed strangers who seemed certain. Whenever something unusual happened, he treated it as a message. A broken wheel meant he should turn back. A sudden storm meant he should remain. A bird landing near him meant he had chosen correctly. A bird flying away meant he had chosen wrongly. His life became a language he was always trying to understand. Every event needed to mean something. Every delay needed an explanation. Every meeting needed a purpose. The farmer listened. Then he asked, "Did following all these signs bring you peace?" The traveler looked toward the rain outside. "No." "Did they bring you closer to where you belong?" "I do not know." The farmer nodded. "That may be the problem." The traveler looked at him. "What do you mean?" "You have spent years looking for proof that you belong somewhere, but you have not stayed anywhere long enough to belong." The words hurt him. We often become angry when someone names the truth we have been avoiding. The traveler's face tightened. "You think I should have stayed in the wrong place?" "No." "You think every road is the same?" "No." "Then what are you saying?" The farmer pointed toward the wet field. "When I found the lotus seed, I planted it. Then I kept digging it up because I wanted proof that it was growing." The traveler said nothing. "I was afraid that if nothing was visible, nothing was happening. So I disturbed it again and again." "And did it grow?" "Only after I stopped checking." The traveler looked toward the door. The rain had weakened. Beyond the field, the small pond was visible. A thin green shoot had broken through the water. The farmer continued, "Perhaps you have been digging up your own life every time it begins to take root." The traveler stared at the green shoot. He did not like the thought, but he could not deny it. He remembered jobs he had left after a few difficult weeks. Friendships he had abandoned when they became uncomfortable. A woman who had once asked him to stay. A village where he had felt peaceful until he became afraid that peace was not enough. He had called all of this searching. Some of it had been fear. Fear of choosing one life and losing all the others. Fear of staying and discovering that no great sign would come. Fear of becoming ordinary. Many people do not struggle because they have no path. They struggle because choosing one path means releasing the others. Every true choice contains a small grief. To walk east is to leave the western road behind. To love one person is to accept that life will not be lived with another. To build one future is to allow many imagined futures to disappear. The traveler had tried to avoid this grief. He wanted a sign strong enough to remove responsibility from him. Then he could say, "Life chose this, I only followed." But no sign had ever been strong enough. Even after choosing, he continued looking over his shoulder. The farmer poured tea into 2 small cups. "You asked for shelter," he said. "Yes." "You did not ask for a sign." The traveler looked at him. "The road flooded. I needed somewhere dry." "And you knocked on this door?" "Yes." "Why this one?" "It was the closest." The farmer smiled. "Sometimes the next step is not hidden." The traveler held the warm cup between his hands. This was difficult for him to accept. He had spent years believing that his true path would feel rare, sacred, different from the ordinary lives around him. But perhaps life was not refusing to guide him. Perhaps he was refusing every form of guidance that looked too simple. Rest when tired, eat when hungry, help the person in front of you. Stay long enough to understand what a place is asking from you. Leave when staying requires you to betray what is true. These were not mysterious signs. They were ordinary forms of attention. Buddhist practice often returns us to what is near, this breath, this body, this moment, not because the larger questions do, not matter, because the mind uses larger questions to escape the life already happening. What is my purpose? Where do I belong? What is meant for me? These questions can be honest. They can also become hiding places. A person can spend years asking what life means while avoiding the work waiting on the table. The traveler had done this. He had searched for the place where he belonged without becoming someone who knew how to stay. The rain stopped before noon. The road remained flooded, so the traveler stayed another night. He helped the farmer repair part of the roof. The next morning he carried water to the pond. On the third day he worked in the field. No sign appeared. No bird landed beside him. No voice came from the mountain. But something unfamiliar happened. He became useful. This gave him a quiet feeling, not the excitement he had felt when beginning a new journey. Something steadier. At the end of the day, he looked at the work they had completed. A section of fence stood straight again. Grain was covered before the evening rain. The farmer had less to carry because another pair of hands had helped. The traveler slept deeply. The next morning, the road was clear. The farmer expected him to leave. The traveler packed slowly. At the door, he asked, "Do you think I should stay here?" The farmer shook his head. "Do you think I should go?" "I cannot answer that." The traveler felt disappointed. He had hoped the farmer would become another sign, a wise man telling him what to do. The farmer saw this. "You are still asking someone else to choose your road." The traveler looked away. "How do I choose without knowing where it leads?" "You do not. Then how can I trust it?" "You trust your next honest step, not the whole road." The farmer went to the pond. The lotus shoot had risen higher. He knelt beside the water and reached into the mud near the edge. There, beneath the surface, he found another seed. It was still closed. He washed it and placed it in the traveler's palm. "Take this." The traveler turned it between his fingers. "What am I supposed to do with it?" "Carry it to the mountain monastery." The traveler looked toward the distant mountains. "Why?" "A monk once passed through this village. He told me there was a monastery beyond the northern ridge. They keep a lotus pond there." "Is this a sign?" The farmer laughed. "No, it is a task." The traveler closed his hand around the seed. "What happens when I arrive?" "I do not know." "Will they tell me where I belong?" "I do not know." "Then why should I go?" The farmer looked at him calmly. "Because you are leaving, and the seed needs to be carried somewhere it can grow." The answer was so simple that the traveler had nothing to argue with. He placed the seed carefully inside his bag. The farmer gave him rice for the road. At the edge of the field, the traveler turned back. "What if I see another sign?" The farmer said, "Notice it, then keep walking." The traveler smiled. He began moving north. For the first time in years, he was not following a promise about his future. He was carrying one small seed toward one real place. The road rose slowly into the mountains. By evening, the farmer's field had disappeared behind him. He expected doubt to arrive. It did, but he kept walking. Days later, tired and covered in dust, he reached the monastery gate. He knocked. An old monk opened it. The traveler bowed and held out the lotus seed. The monk looked at the seed, then at the traveler. He did not invite him inside. He simply said, "No," and he closed the gate. The old monk said no. Then he closed the gate. The traveler stood outside with the lotus seed still in his hand. For a moment he thought he had reached the wrong monastery. He looked at the stone wall. He looked at the wooden gate. He looked at the narrow path that had carried him through the mountains. There was nowhere else to go. So he knocked again. The monk opened the gate. The traveler bowed. "A farmer sent me here." The monk said nothing. "He said you have a lotus pond." The monk looked at the seed. Then he looked at the traveler. "Yes." "May I come inside?" "No." The gate closed again. The traveler felt anger rise in him. He had climbed for days. His feet were covered in blisters. His food was gone. The mountain wind cut through his clothes, and this old monk would not even explain himself. He knocked a third time. The gate opened. This time, the traveler spoke before the monk could refuse him. "I carried this seed all the way from the valley. I can see that. The farmer said it should be planted here. Perhaps. Then take it." The monk did not move. The traveler held the seed closer. The monk said, "You want me to take more than the seed." The traveler frowned. "What else?" "You want me to take your uncertainty." The traveler lowered his hand. The monk had seen it immediately. This was what the traveler had hoped for. He had imagined arriving at the monastery and meeting someone who understood the hidden shape of his life, someone who would look into his eyes and say, "You belong here," or "Your path is in the east," or "You have suffered because a great purpose is waiting for you." He wanted the monk to turn confusion into direction. He wanted a clear answer. He wanted the road behind him to make sense. The monk had offered only a closed door. Most of us know this disappointment. We reached the place we believed would answer us. A new job, a new relationship, a spiritual teacher, a city we dreamed about, a goal we worked toward for years. We arrive carrying the hope that something outside us will finally remove the questions inside us. Then the door opens, and life is still life. We are still ourselves. The uncertainty followed us. The traveler looked at the monk. "I only want to know what I should do." The monk nodded. That is what everyone says when they want someone else to carry the weight of choosing. "I came here for guidance." Guidance is not the same as having your future explained. "Can you help me or not?" The monk looked toward the sky. Night was approaching. The traveler waited. At last the monk opened the gate wider. "Come in." The traveler stepped through quickly, afraid the monk might change his mind. Inside, the monastery was simple: a stone courtyard, a prayer hall, several small rooms, a kitchen with smoke rising from its roof. Beyond the buildings, the traveler saw a pond. Large green leaves covered the water. A few lotus flowers stood above them. He felt relief. The seed had reached the right place. He held it out again. The monk ignored it. Instead, he walked to a wall and picked up an old broom. He gave it to the traveler. "Before sunrise, sweep the path from this gate to the prayer hall." The traveler stared at the broom. "What about the seed?" "Keep it." "What about my questions?" "Keep those too." The monk walked away. The traveler followed him. "You do not understand. I have been searching for years." The monk kept walking. "I have followed rivers, birds, dreams, merchants, and monks." The old man entered the prayer hall. The traveler stopped at the doorway. "Surely you can tell me something." The monk turned. "I can tell you that the path is covered in leaves." Then he closed the prayer hall door. The traveler stood alone in the courtyard. Another door had closed. He wanted to leave. He could walk back down the mountain. He could find another monastery, another teacher, another person who might give him the answer he wanted. This had always been his way. When a place did not quickly reveal its meaning, he moved on. When a person did not understand him, he left. When a path became ordinary, he assumed it was wrong. The closed door awakened this old habit. Go, find somewhere better, find someone wiser, find a sign. But he was tired, and the farmer's words returned to him. Perhaps you have been digging up your own life every time it begins to take root. So the traveler stayed. A young monk showed him a small room. There was a mat on the floor, a folded blanket, a bowl of water, nothing else. The traveler placed the lotus seed beside the mat. He lay down but could not sleep. His mind returned again and again to the old monk. Why had he refused him? Why give him a broom? Was sweeping some kind of test? Would the monk tell him his future after the path was clean? The traveler began turning the task into another sign. This is what the mind does when it is hungry for meaning. It cannot allow a broom to be only a broom. It cannot allow a closed door to be only a closed door. Everything must hide a message, everything must lead somewhere, but sometimes a task is simply the thing in front of us. Before dawn, a bell rang. The traveler rose. The monastery was dark. He took the broom and went to the gate. Leaves covered the path. Some were dry, some were wet from the night mist. The path was longer than he had noticed. He began sweeping. At first, he worked quickly. He wanted to finish before sunrise. He pushed the leaves into large piles. The broom scraped against stone. The sound seemed too loud in the sleeping monastery. He kept looking toward the prayer hall. The door remained closed. He wondered whether the monk was watching him. This made him sweep harder. He wanted to do the task perfectly. Perhaps the monk would see his effort and decide he was worthy of an answer. The traveler had done this all his life. He turned every action into a way of earning certainty. He worked for approval. He served so he would be accepted. He gave so life would give something back. Even kindness became a bargain. Even patience became a demand. I have waited. Now answer me. I have suffered. Now reward me. I have done the work. Now show me where I belong. But life does not always follow the agreements we create in our own minds. The sun began to brighten the edge of the sky. The traveler swept faster. His back hurt. His hands became sore. When he finally reached the prayer hall, he looked behind him. The path was clear. He felt proud. The old monk opened the door. The traveler stood straight, holding the broom. "It is done," he said. The monk looked down the path. A wind moved through the courtyard. Leaves fell from the trees. They scattered across the stones. The traveler watched them land on the path he had just cleaned. His pride disappeared. The monk said, "Sweep it again tomorrow." Then he walked past him. The traveler turned. "That is all." The monk continued toward the kitchen. "You saw what happened." "Yes." "The leaves came back." "Yes." "So sweep again." The traveler followed him. "What is the lesson?" The monk stopped. "You are asking because you do not want to sweep. I already swept. Yesterday's work does not clean today's path." The traveler felt anger again. "I did not climb this mountain to sweep leaves." The monk looked at him. "Why did you climb it?" "To understand where I belong." "And where are you now?" "In a monastery." "What is in your hand?" "A broom." "What is under your feet?" "The path." The traveler waited for more. There was nothing more. The monk entered the kitchen. The traveler stood outside. He felt mocked. The answers were too simple. He wanted something deep, something he could carry away and repeat, something that would make his years of searching seem noble. Instead, the monk kept bringing him back to what was near: the path, the broom, the morning. This is difficult because the mind prefers the future. The future can be perfect. The future can hold the life we have not yet failed to live. The present is smaller. It asks us to touch what is actually here: a dirty floor, a hard conversation, a tired body, a task we have avoided, a feeling we cannot escape. The future promises meaning. The present asks for attention. The traveler swept the path again the next morning, and the morning after that. Each time, leaves returned. Some fell while he was still sweeping. At first, this made him furious. It seemed unfair. He wanted the path to remain clean long enough for his work to matter. One morning, he shouted at the trees, "Can you not wait?" A young monk nearby began laughing. The traveler looked at him. "What is funny?" "You are asking autumn to respect your schedule." The traveler did not laugh, but later, while sweeping, he understood. The trees were not against him. The wind was not undoing his work out of cruelty. Leaves fall, paths become covered, things change. This was not personal. Much of human suffering becomes heavier because we take change personally. A person leaves, and we ask what is wrong with us. A plan fails, and we believe life has chosen us for punishment. The body changes, and we feel betrayed. But life is not always sending a message through what changes. Sometimes leaves are simply falling. The traveler began sweeping more slowly. He stopped racing the sunrise. He noticed the sound of the broom, the cold air, the color of the sky. the movement of his arms. When a leaf fell onto the clean stones, he no longer treated it as failure. He swept it aside. Then another came. He swept that too. This was the practice. Not creating a path that would remain clean forever. Meeting the path as it was each morning. The Buddha taught that everything made from conditions changes. This includes our thoughts, our moods, our certainty, our fear, our sense of direction. We often wait to feel completely ready before taking the next step. But readiness changes, confidence rises and falls. A clear mind becomes confused. A confused mind becomes clear. If we wait for a permanent feeling before we move, we may wait our whole lives. The traveler began to see that belonging might not be a feeling that arrived once and stayed. Perhaps belonging was built through returning, through caring for the place where his feet were, through doing today's work without demanding that it remain finished forever. After several weeks, he went to the Lotus pond. The old monk was sitting beside it. The traveler sat nearby. He placed the seed between them. "You still have not told me what to do with this." The monk looked at the pond. "Why have you not planted it?" "I thought you would tell me where. There is water. I thought I needed permission." "You have spent your life waiting for permission from signs." The traveler held the seed. "Then I should plant it," the monk said. Nothing. The traveler almost asked again. Instead, he looked at the pond. He noticed an open place near the edge, between two large lotus leaves. He stepped into the shallow water. He pressed the seed into the mud. Then he stood. "Was that the right place?" he asked. The monk picked up a fallen leaf and placed it on the water. "It is the place you chose." The traveler watched the leaf drift away. He wanted the monk to say more, but something in him had begun to understand. No answer could remove all doubt. No teacher could make a choice without also taking the traveler's life away from him. Guidance could point. Practice could steady him. But he still had to place the seed into the mud with his own hand. That evening, the traveler found the old monk closing the prayer hall. "Will you ever tell me my future?" he asked. "No." "Do you know it?" "No." "Then why did you close the gate when I arrived?" The monk looked at him. "Because you believed every open door was meant for you." The traveler was quiet. "And why did you open it later?" "Because you knocked again. So I was meant to enter?" The monk shook his head. "You entered." Then he closed the prayer hall door. The next morning, the traveler returned to the path before sunrise. Leaves covered it again. He lifted the broom. This time, he did not ask what the task would lead to. He began. But beneath one pile of leaves, something small was moving. And when he bent closer, he found an injured bird that could not fly. The path was covered again, and beneath the leaves, something was breathing. The traveler lowered the broom. At first, he thought it was a rat. Then the leaves moved. A small brown bird tried to lift one wing. The other stayed close to its body. Its feathers were wet. One leg was trapped beneath a broken twig. The traveler knelt. The bird opened its beak, but made no sound. It looked at him with the sharp fear of a creature that did not know whether the hand coming closer would help or harm it. The traveler knew that fear. He had carried it into every new place. Every open door had seemed promising. Every closed door had felt like rejection. He had spent years asking life one question: "Are you taking care of me, or are you about to hurt me?" The bird could not ask this, but its whole body was asking. The traveler moved slowly. He lifted the twig. The bird struggled. "Be still," he whispered. Of course, it did not understand him. Pain does not become calm because someone tells it to. Fear does not leave because the danger has passed. The body often continues protecting itself from what is no longer happening. The traveler had seen this in himself. Even when he found shelter, part of him remained ready to leave. Even when someone showed kindness, he looked for the hidden cost. Even when a path became peaceful, he began searching for signs that it was wrong. The danger had changed. The fear remained. He placed both hands around the bird and lifted it from the leaves. It was lighter than he expected. This surprised him. Things can feel enormous when they are hidden. Once held clearly, they may be smaller. The bird trembled in his palms. He looked toward the prayer hall. The old monk was not there. The monastery was still quiet. The traveler forgot the path. He forgot the sunrise. He forgot that the monk might come and see the leaves scattered across the stones. For the first time since arriving, he stopped thinking about whether he was doing the task correctly. Something alive needed help. That was enough. He carried the bird to the kitchen. A young monk was lighting the morning fire. He looked up. What happened? I found it beneath the leaves. The young monk came closer. He touched the bird gently. The wing may be hurt. What should we do? Keep it warm. Give it water. Wait. The traveler almost laughed. Wait. Again. Every lesson seemed to return to this word. Wait for the rain. Wait for the seed. Wait for the path to show itself. Now wait for a bird to heal. But this waiting felt different. It was not empty. There was something to care for. The young monk brought a small basket and lined it with cloth. They placed the bird inside. It tried to stand. Its injured wing dragged beneath it. The traveler felt a tightness in his chest. Will it fly again? The young monk said, I do not know. The traveler disliked the answer. He had heard it too many times. From the farmer, from the old monk, now from this young monk. No one at the monastery seemed willing to promise anything. He asked, what if the wing is broken? Then we will still care for it today. And tomorrow? If tomorrow comes, we will care for it tomorrow. This was the kind of answer the traveler once would have found useless. He wanted the whole story. He wanted to know whether the bird would live, whether it would heal, whether his help would matter. But the young monk was giving him only the next moment. Warmth, water, care, nothing more. The traveler sat beside the basket. Outside, the path remained covered in leaves. The old monk entered the kitchen. He looked at the bird, then at the traveler. You did not finish sweeping. The traveler felt shame. I found it beneath the leaves. I can see that. I thought this was more important. The old monk nodded. It was. The traveler looked up. He had expected correction, perhaps even anger. Instead, the monk placed a small bowl of water beside the basket. Then he left. The traveler watched him go. Something in this disturbed him more than punishment would have. He had believed the task was about obedience. He had believed the monk wanted the path clean. But if the bird mattered more than the path, then perhaps the path had never been the real lesson. This is how practice often works. We think we are being asked to complete a task, but the task is teaching us how to see. We think success means finishing. Sometimes success means noticing what the work reveals. The traveler had swept the path for many mornings. At first, he saw only leaves, obstacles, evidence that his work never lasted. But now he understood that the leaves had covered something vulnerable. If the wind had not scattered them, perhaps he would never have found the bird. The same leaves that had made him angry had protected it from the cold. What had looked like a problem had also been shelter. Life is often like this. The delay we hate may be protecting us from something we are not ready to meet. The ending we resist may create space for a life we cannot yet see. The closed door may stop us from entering a place that would have kept us from growing. This does not mean every pain is secretly good. It does not mean we should call suffering a gift while we are still bleeding from it. It means only that we rarely know the whole meaning of what is happening while it is happening. The traveler had treated every fallen leaf as an enemy. Now he looked at them differently. They were not only covering the path, they were hiding a life. He stayed with the bird through the morning. He dipped one finger into the water and touched it near the bird's beak. The bird did not drink. He tried again later. Still nothing. By noon, he began to worry. The bird had closed its eyes. Its breathing was shallow. The traveler felt the old urge to act. He wanted to do more, move it, feed it, find a medicine, ask every monk in the monastery. He wanted effort because effort gave him the feeling of control. But the young monk stopped him. Too much handling will frighten it. So we do nothing. We keep it safe. That feels like nothing. It is not nothing. The traveler looked at the basket. This was another lesson he did not like. Care is not always active. Love does not always know how to fix. Sometimes the kindest thing is to stop touching the wound. Sometimes we remain near without demanding improvement. This is difficult because another person's pain makes us feel helpless. We want them to heal so we can stop feeling afraid. We say, be strong, move on, do not think about it. Everything happens for a reason. We speak too soon because silence makes us uncomfortable, but pain has its own pace. Healing has its own season. The bird did not need the traveler's fear added to its injury. It needed stillness. So he sat. Hours passed. He listened to the fire. He listened to the monks moving through the courtyard. He listened to the bird breathe. At first, every pause between breaths frightened him. Then he stopped counting. He allowed the bird to be what it was in that moment. Injured, alive, uncertain. This was also what he was. He had come to the monastery asking for his future. He wanted someone to tell him that his life would become whole, that his years of wandering would lead somewhere, that the confusion had been necessary. No one promised him this. But beside the injured bird, he began to see that uncertainty did not make care meaningless. He did not know whether the bird would fly. Still, he gave it water. He did not know whether he belonged at the monastery. Still, he swept the path. He did not know what his life would become. Still, he could meet what was in front of him. Perhaps this was trust, not believing that everything would end as he wished, believing that this moment could still be met with kindness. In the afternoon, the bird opened its eyes. It moved its head toward the water. The traveler held the bowl closer. The bird drank, only a little. But the traveler smiled as though something great had happened. The old monk was standing in the doorway. "You look pleased," he said. "It drank." "Yes." "Do you think it will live?" The old monk walked into the kitchen. "Why do you need tomorrow to approve what happened today?" The traveler looked down at the bird. "I suppose I want to know that this matters." It mattered to the bird when it was thirsty. The traveler became quiet. We often delay the value of what we do. We say the effort mattered only if it succeeded. The relationship mattered only if it lasted. The journey mattered only if we arrived. The care mattered only if the person healed. But Buddhism asks us to look more closely. An action carries its value in the quality of mind that creates it. Kindness is not wasted because the ending is painful. Patience is not foolish because the result is uncertain. Love is not meaningless because it does not remain forever. The traveler had offered water. The bird had drunk. That moment was complete. It did not need a future to make it real. That evening, the traveler returned to the path. The leaves were still there. He picked up the broom. This time, he did not feel anger. He swept carefully, not because he wanted a perfect path, because something else might be hidden. A stone someone could trip over, an insect trapped beneath wet leaves, a small thing he would have missed while rushing. His attention had changed, the path had not. This is one of the quiet changes Buddhist practice brings. We often wait for life to become easier, but sometimes the real change is that we begin seeing the same life with a different mind. The wind still blows, leaves still fall, people still disappoint us, bodies still become tired, plans still change. But we stop meeting every change as an attack. We become curious. What is here now? What needs care? What can be released? What have I been too angry to notice? Over the next several days, the traveler cared for the bird. He gave it water. He brought small grains from the kitchen. He changed the cloth beneath it. Each morning, he checked the wing. Each morning, it looked the same. He felt impatience return, not as strong as before, but it was there. He wanted progress. He wanted the bird to reward his care by getting better. Then he noticed this thought. He saw how quickly love could become a demand. I helped you. Now heal. I stayed. Now choose me. I gave. Now give something back. The traveler did not like seeing this in himself, but seeing it was the beginning of freedom. He began caring for the bird without asking it to become a story about him. This was harder and cleaner. A week passed. One morning the bird stood in the basket. Its injured wing lifted slightly. The traveler held his breath. The bird opened both wings. One moved well, the other shook. It tried again. The traveler wanted to help. He kept his hands still. The bird jumped onto the edge of the basket, then it fell back. The traveler reached forward. The old monk standing nearby said, "Let it try. It may hurt itself. It may." The bird jumped again. This time, it held the edge. It remained there for several breaths. Then it returned to the cloth. The traveler smiled. The monk said, "Do not confuse your fear with protection." The words stayed with him. Many people do this. We hold too tightly and call it love. We make choices for others and call it care. We stop them from trying because we cannot bear to watch them struggle. But trust must sometimes allow falling, a child learning to walk, a friend making a choice we would not make, a person we love leaving to discover who they are. We cannot protect life from every wound without also protecting it from growth. Days later, the traveler carried the basket outside. The morning was clear. He placed it beside the path. The bird stepped onto the edge. It looked toward the trees. The traveler felt both hope and fear. Part of him wanted it to fly. Part of him wanted it to stay. He had become attached. This small creature had given his mornings purpose. If it left, the basket would be empty. The traveler understood then that even kindness can create attachment. We care for something. Then we begin believing it belongs to us because we cared. But the bird had never belonged to him. Its healing was not a promise that it would remain. The bird opened its wings. It lifted from the basket. For one moment, it fell. Then the air caught beneath it. It flew low across the path. It landed on a stone. The traveler laughed. The bird flew again. This time it reached a branch. It turned its head. Then it disappeared into the trees. The traveler stood beside the empty basket. He felt joy, then sadness. Both were true. The old monk came to stand near him. "You wanted it to heal," he said. "Yes. And now you are sad that it has gone." "Yes." The monk nodded. "This is the price of loving what is free." The traveler looked toward the trees. He had spent years searching for the place meant for him. Now he wondered whether belonging was not always about staying. Perhaps some things were meant to meet us, change us, and continue. Not every person who leaves was sent to reject us. Not every ending means the connection was false. Some lives touch ours for only a season. The lesson remains after the form disappears. The traveler bent to lift the basket. Something red lay at the bottom. a thin thread. He picked it up. It had been caught around one of the bird's legs, hidden beneath the feathers. The thread moved in the morning wind. The traveler looked toward the path beyond the monastery gate. It stretched down the mountain toward the river. The old monk said nothing. The traveler wrapped the red thread around his finger. For the first time, he did not ask whether it was a sign. But before the day ended, the wind would carry that thread beyond the monastery walls and toward someone waiting beside the river. The bird had healed, but healing was not the same as leaving. For several mornings, it sat on the edge of the basket and looked toward the open sky. Its wing was stronger now. It could lift it, it could stretch it, it could move from the basket to the floor and from the floor to the low wall beside the path. Still, it would not fly. The traveler waited. At first, he was patient. He told himself the bird needed time. It had been injured. The sky that once meant freedom may now have looked like danger. This is what pain can do. It changes the meaning of ordinary things. A road becomes frightening after an accident. Silence becomes frightening after abandonment. Love becomes frightening after betrayal. The thing itself may not have changed, but the body remembers what happened there. The bird stood on the wall each morning. It watched other birds cross the sky. Sometimes it opened its wings, then it pulled them back. The traveler understood more than he wanted to admit. He had spent years moving from place to place, but movement had not always meant courage. Sometimes he traveled because staying frightened him. Now the bird stayed because leaving frightened it. They looked different. The fear beneath them was the same. One morning, the traveler carried the basket into the courtyard. He placed it beneath a tree. The bird stepped onto the edge. Sunlight touched its feathers. The traveler moved back. "You can go," he said. The bird remained still. He waited. Nothing happened. The old monk crossed the courtyard carrying a bowl. The traveler called to him, "It will not fly." The monk looked at the bird. "Perhaps it does not want to." "It is a bird." "Yes, it is meant to fly." The monk looked at the traveler. "You have strong ideas about what another life is meant to do." The traveler felt annoyed. "I cared for it so it could return to the sky." "Did the bird ask you for that?" "It was injured, and you helped it." "Yes, that part is complete." The traveler looked at the bird. "It cannot remain in a basket forever." "No. Then what should I do?" The monk continued walking. "Stop making its freedom your project." The traveler stared after him. This was not the answer he wanted. He had spent days caring for the bird. He had brought water, food, warm cloth. He had protected it from the cold. Now he wanted to see the result. He wanted the bird to rise into the sky so that all his care would have an ending he could understand. Without that flight, the story felt unfinished. We do this often. We help someone and then wait for them to become who we hoped they would become. We give advice and become frustrated when they do not follow it. We forgive and expect the relationship to return to what it was. We love and quietly demand that love produce a certain future. We may call this hope. Sometimes it is control. The traveler did not want to admit that the bird's flight had become important to him for another reason. If it flew, then healing was real. If it flew, perhaps he could heal too. If a broken wing could trust the sky again, perhaps a lost man could trust the road. He had placed his own question inside the bird. This is a heavy thing to place on another life. The bird had only one task, to be what it was in that moment. The traveler wanted it to become an answer. That evening he sat beside the basket. The bird slept with its head beneath one wing. The traveler watched its breathing. He thought about all the people he had asked to become signs for him. The woman beside the river who had smiled, the merchant who had spoken of wealth, the monk who had spoken of attachment, the farmer who had sent him toward the mountain. He had not simply met them, he had asked each of them to explain his life. Perhaps this was why he had never seen them clearly. When we need someone to save us from uncertainty, we stop seeing who they are. We see only what we hope they will give us: a promise, a direction, a reason to stay, a reason to leave. The bird opened one eye. The traveler whispered, "You do not have to teach me anything." The bird closed its eye again. The next morning, he moved the basket outside. He opened the small woven door. Then he walked away. He did not wait beside it. He went to sweep the path. Leaves had fallen again. The wind had done its work during the night. The traveler began at the monastery gate. He swept slowly. The sound of the broom against stone steadied him. After a while, he heard movement behind him. He turned. The bird stood outside the basket. It walked across the ground. It pecked at a seed near the wall. The traveler smiled. Then he returned to sweeping. The bird climbed onto a stone. It opened both wings. The traveler saw this from the corner of his eye. He did not stop. The bird flapped once, then again. It did not rise. It folded its wings and remained on the stone. The traveler felt disappointment. He noticed it. Then he let it pass. This was new. Before, every feeling became a command. Fear meant leave. Doubt meant change direction. Hope meant chase. Disappointment meant something had gone wrong. Now he was learning that a feeling could be felt without being obeyed. It could rise, stay for a time, then pass, just like the leaves, just like the rain, just like fear in the dark. The Buddha taught that clinging creates suffering. Clinging is not only holding tightly to things we possess, it is holding tightly to the way we believe something should happen. The bird should fly today. The person should choose me. The work should succeed. The prayer should be answered. The pain should be gone by now. We build a narrow doorway and demand that life pass through it. When life takes another path, we call it failure. The traveler was beginning to see this in himself. He did not know whether the bird would fly that day. He did not know whether it would ever fly far. But he could stop turning its healing into a deadline. Days passed. The bird moved freely through the courtyard. It no longer slept in the basket. It slept beneath the roof of the kitchen. It followed the young monks when they carried grain. It learned where crumbs fell after meals. Sometimes it flew a short distance from the ground to the wall. Then it would stop. The traveler watched without pushing. This was harder than helping. Helping gave his hands something to do. Trust required him to leave space. One afternoon, a storm gathered over the mountain. The wind became strong. Leaves moved across the courtyard. Doors began to shake. The monks carried tools and bowls inside. The traveler looked for the bird. It stood on the low wall. Its feathers lifted in the wind. He hurried toward it. "You should come inside." The bird moved away. The wind grew stronger. The traveler reached out. The bird opened its wings. For one moment he thought the wind would throw it to the ground. Instead, the bird rose, only a little. Then it landed farther along the wall. The traveler moved closer. The old monk stood near the prayer hall. "Leave it," he said. "It could be hurt. It could. You want me to do nothing? I want you to see whether your help is needed." The traveler stopped. The bird faced the wind. Its body lowered. Its claws held the stone. The wind struck again. The bird opened its wings wider. This time, it rose above the wall. It dropped suddenly. The traveler's body moved forward. Then the bird caught the air. It lifted, not smoothly, not beautifully. Its flight was uneven. One wing still worked harder than the other, but it stayed in the air. The traveler stood beneath the darkening sky. The bird crossed the courtyard. It landed on the roof. The traveler laughed. The bird looked down at him. The old monk said, "You wanted it to fly without struggle." The traveler nodded. It needed to discover that the wind would hold it. The storm continued around them. The bird lifted again. This time it flew toward the trees beyond the monastery wall. The traveler followed it to the gate. He watched it land on a branch. Rain began to fall. The bird remained there. Then it flew from one tree to another. Soon it disappeared. The traveler waited. He expected sadness. It came. He expected joy. That came too. He stood in the rain and allowed both. This was another lesson. Opposite feelings can live in the same heart. We can be grateful and grieving. We can love someone and know we must let them go. We can trust a path and still be afraid of where it leads. The presence of fear does not mean trust is false. The presence of sadness does not mean the choice was wrong. Human beings often wait for one feeling to defeat the other. We want peace without pain, love without risk, freedom without loss. But life is wider than that. The traveler returned to the courtyard. Near the wall, something red moved against the wet stones. He bent down. It was a small thread, thin, bright red. He had seen it before around the bird's leg, hidden beneath its feathers. The rain had loosened it. Now it lay near his feet. He picked it up. The thread was light, almost weightless. Yet it held his attention. He turned it between his fingers. The old monk stood beside him. "Is this a sign?" the traveler asked. The monk looked at the thread. "What do you think?" The traveler almost gave the old answer. He almost began searching for meaning. A red thread could mean connection, fate, a promise, a road waiting to be followed. His mind was ready to build a great story from something small. Then he stopped. "It is a thread," he said. The old monk smiled. "Yes." The traveler waited. The monk added nothing. The traveler felt strangely relieved. The thread did not need to command him. It did not need to explain his future. It could simply be what remained after the bird left. Still, he kept it. Not because he believed it would lead him to his destiny, because it reminded him of something real. The bird had not flown when he demanded it. It had flown when strength, fear, wind, and readiness met in one moment. No single part had caused the flight. This is how many things happen. We like to believe that one choice controls the result, one perfect action, one correct sign, one person arriving at the right time. But Buddhist teaching speaks of conditions. Nothing arises alone. A seed opens because of water, warmth, soil, time, and life hidden within it. Healing comes through rest, care, courage, and conditions we may never see. A path becomes clear because many small moments gather. The traveler had helped the bird, but he had not made it fly. The wind had frightened it. The same wind had also held it. What looked like danger had become part of its freedom. That night, the traveler tied the red thread loosely around his wrist. He did not ask where it would lead. The next morning, he went to sweep the path. A strong wind moved through the gate. It caught the loose end of the thread and pulled it outward. The traveler followed only to stop it from tearing away. The thread stretched beyond the monastery wall. Below the mountain, the river shone between the trees. And beside that river sat a woman who had been waiting for life to return what it had taken. The wind pulled the red thread beyond the monastery wall. The traveler followed it down toward the river. At first, he felt foolish. It was only a thread. The old monk had said nothing. No one had told him to leave. No voice had called from the valley. Still, the thread moved in the wind, and the traveler walked after it. Not because he believed it carried his future, because something in him had changed. He no longer needed every step to contain a great promise. Sometimes curiosity was enough. Sometimes the next honest movement was enough. The path down the mountain was narrow. Wet stones pressed through his sandals. Branches reached across the trail. The river appeared and disappeared between the trees. By midday, he reached the valley. The wind weakened. The red thread fell against his wrist. It had led him nowhere clear. There was only the river, wide, brown from the rain, moving with the quiet strength of something that had never asked permission to continue. The traveler stood beside it. He almost turned back. Then he saw the woman. She sat farther along the bank beneath a bent tree. Her clothes were clean but worn. Her hands rested in her lap. A wooden bowl sat beside her. She was not crying. This made her grief feel heavier. Some sorrow arrives loudly. It shakes the body. It fills rooms. It asks to be witnessed. Other sorrow becomes still. It has lived inside a person for so long that even tears no longer know how to reach it. The woman carried this kind. The traveler walked closer. She did not look at him. He stopped a respectful distance away. "Are you waiting for someone?" he asked. The woman watched the river. "No." "Then why are you sitting here?" "Because this is where everything ended." The traveler looked at the water. It moved around stones and broken branches. Nothing about it seemed to end. He sat several steps away. The woman did not ask who he was. She did not seem to care. After a long silence, she said, "The river took my husband first." The traveler waited. Many years ago, the rains came too quickly. He tried to cross before the bridge was closed. Her voice remained calm. The current carried him away. The traveler lowered his eyes. The woman continued, "My son was still young. I told myself I had to remain strong for him." She touched the wooden bowl beside her. This belonged to him. The traveler looked at it. It was old. The edge had been repaired with dark thread. "My son grew into a kind man," she said. "Too kind, perhaps." She gave a tired smile. "He believed every stranger deserved food." The traveler thought of the farmer opening his door. He said nothing. "One evening, my son came to this river. He said he needed to think. He never returned." The traveler looked at the water again. "Did anyone find him?" "No." "Did they search?" "For weeks." "And you believe the river took him too?" The woman's face tightened. "What else should I believe?" The traveler did not answer. There are moments when quick wisdom becomes cruelty. When someone is grieving, the truth must be held gently. A teaching given too early can feel like a door closing. The woman had not asked for an explanation. She had carried years without one. The traveler had once believed every event contained a hidden message. Now he understood that not knowing could become its own kind of wound. The mind does not like empty spaces. It fills them. If a person disappears, the mind creates a final moment. If a relationship ends without explanation, the mind invents reasons. If life changes suddenly, the mind builds a story about why. Sometimes the story comforts us. Sometimes it becomes a prison. The woman had chosen the river as the answer. The river took him. The river took everything. This answer gave her something clear to hate. Clear hatred can feel easier than open uncertainty. The traveler looked at her. "How long have you been coming here?" "Every day." "For how many years?" 7. The traveler felt the weight of this. 7 years beside the same water. 7 years asking the same question. 7 years watching the river move while her own life remained still. "Why do you return?" he asked. The woman looked at him for the first time. "Because this is where he might come back." The traveler understood then. She did not sit beside the river only because it had taken her son. She sat there because she still hoped it might return him. This is how grief can hold both anger and hope. We curse the door that closed. Then we sit beside it. We say we have accepted the ending. Then we listen for footsteps. We tell ourselves the person is gone. Then we keep one part of the house unchanged. The woman blamed the river, but she also trusted it with the impossible. The traveler asked, "Do you believe he is alive?" "I do not know." "Do you believe he is dead?" "I do not know." "Then what do you believe?" Her eyes filled. "I believe I cannot leave." There it was. Not the river, not the missing son. The true prison was the belief that leaving the bank would mean abandoning him. Many people remain beside old pain for this reason. They believe healing is betrayal. They believe laughing again means the love was not deep. They believe moving forward means leaving someone behind. So they carry grief as proof. Proof that the person mattered. Proof that the loss was real. Proof that they have not forgotten. The woman had made suffering into loyalty. The traveler knew he had to speak carefully. "Your son used this bowl to feed strangers." "Yes." "Would he want you sitting here hungry?" The woman looked away. "That is not the same." "No. Do not speak as though you know him." "I do not." "Then do not tell me what he would want." The traveler accepted this. She was right. Grief often attracts people who think they understand too quickly. They offer advice because helplessness makes them uncomfortable. They say, "He would want you to be happy." They say, "You must move on." They say, "Time heals." But no one should use the dead to command the living. The traveler bowed his head. "I am sorry." The woman's anger softened. They sat in silence. The river moved before them. A branch floated past, then another. A white flower turned slowly in the current. The woman watched it disappear. "The river never keeps anything," she said. The traveler looked at her. "It takes everything away." The traveler remembered the lotus seed. The rain had carried it from somewhere unknown and left it beside the farmer's field. He remembered the red thread dropped by the bird. The wind had carried it beyond the monastery. Perhaps the river did not only take, perhaps it carried. But he did not say this yet. The woman needed to arrive there herself. The traveler stayed beside her until evening. When he stood to leave, she asked, "Will you return tomorrow?" The question surprised him. "Yes," he said. He did not know whether it was true until he said it. The next morning he came back. The woman was already there. He brought rice wrapped in leaves. She refused it. He placed it beside the wooden bowl. They sat. The next day he returned again. This time he brought tea. She drank a little. No great teaching passed between them. No hidden truth appeared. They watched the river. The traveler began to understand that presence itself could be a form of compassion. We often believe we must remove another person's pain to be useful, but some pain cannot be removed. It can only be accompanied. The Buddha taught compassion as the willingness to meet suffering without turning away, not fixing everything, not controlling the ending, remaining open. The traveler had once run from every place that did not quickly answer him. Now he returned to a woman who offered no answer at all. Days passed. The old monk did not send anyone to find him. The traveler wondered whether he was expected back. Then he noticed the old habit inside the question. Expected by whom, meant by what? He had chosen to sit beside the woman. That choice was enough for now. One afternoon, the woman asked about the red thread around his wrist. "It came from a bird," he said. She looked at him. "A bird gave it to you?" "It fell near my feet after the bird flew away." "Was it injured?" "Yes." "Did you heal it?" "I cared for it. Healing happened slowly." The woman touched the edge of the wooden bowl. "Then it left." "Yes." Did that hurt? Yes. Did you wish it had stayed? For a while. Then why did you let it go? The traveler looked across the river. Because its leaving was not a rejection of my care. The woman became still. The words had reached something in her. He continued, "The bird did not owe me its life because I helped it. It was free before it met me. It was free when it left." The woman looked down. "My son was free too." The traveler did not answer. She said it again. "My son was free." Her voice broke. For 7 years, she had thought only in 2 ways. The river had taken him, or he would return to her. But there was another possibility. He had chosen a road she did not understand. This possibility was not easier. In some ways, it hurt more. If the river had taken him, he had not chosen to leave. If he was alive somewhere, then perhaps he had continued without her. The mind sometimes prefers tragedy to freedom. Tragedy does not feel personal. Freedom can. The woman covered her face. The traveler remained beside her. He did not tell her to calm down. He did not tell her what to believe. He let the grief move. It came in waves. Her shoulders shook. Her breath became uneven. Years of stillness broke open. The river continued. When the crying slowed, she said, "Was I not enough?" This question lives beneath many losses. A child leaves. A partner turns away. A friend chooses another life. And beneath the anger is the same wound. "Was I not enough to make you stay?" The traveler chose his words slowly. Someone leaving does not always measure the value of what they left. The woman listened. A road can call a person without making home worthless. She looked toward him. "You do not know that." "No." "Then why say it?" "Because I spent years leaving places that had done nothing wrong." The woman studied him. "Why?" "I believed somewhere else would tell me who I was." "Did you find it?" "No." "Then perhaps my son did the same." "Perhaps." "And perhaps he died." "Perhaps." She looked angry again. "You have no answer." "No." "Then what use are you?" The traveler almost felt wounded. Then he understood. She was not attacking him. She was attacking uncertainty. He said, "I can sit with you while there is no answer." The woman looked at the river. "That is not enough." "No." But he returned the next day, and the next. Slowly, something changed. Not in the river, in the woman. She began speaking about her son before he disappeared, not only the final day. She told the traveler how he laughed, how he burned rice, how he once brought home a dog and hid it beneath his sleeping mat, how he gave away half their winter food to a family passing through the village. Her grief had reduced him to an absence. Now memory returned him to a whole life. This is important. Loss can become so large that it covers everything that came before it. We remember only the ending, the illness, the argument, the day someone left. But a life is more than its last moment. Love is more than the way it ended. The woman began holding the full story again. One morning she brought food in the wooden bowl. She placed half in front of the traveler. They ate together. Afterward she washed the bowl in the river. The current pulled at her hands. She held it tightly. Then she laughed softly. "My son used to tell me I held everything too tightly." The traveler smiled. "What did you say?" "I told him that was why nothing in the house was ever lost." Her smile disappeared. "Then I lost him." The traveler watched the water pass around her wrists. "You did not lose him because you loosened your grip." "I know." "Do you?" "No." She carried the bowl back to the bank. For the first time she sat facing away from the river. This small movement mattered. Not because grief had ended. It had not. Not because she had stopped hoping. She had not. But her whole body was no longer waiting for the water to return the past. The traveler asked, "What did you believe was meant for you?" The woman thought for a long time. A husband, a son, a home filled with voices. And when they were gone, I believed nothing was left. The traveler touched the red thread. Perhaps what is meant for us is not always something we are allowed to keep. The woman looked at him. Then what does meant for us mean? He had no perfect answer, but he knew more than he once had. Perhaps it means something becomes part of our path. It meets us. It changes us. It asks something from us, but it may not stay in the form we wanted. The woman picked up the wooden bowl. My son is still part of my path. Yes. Even if he never returns. Yes. The words hurt her, but they did not destroy her. Truth often enters this way, not as relief, as something painful enough to make a larger life possible. That afternoon, the river carried a bundle of reeds toward the bank. Something was caught inside them. The traveler stepped into the shallow water and pulled the bundle closer. Among the reeds was a small carved piece of wood. The woman took it. Her face changed. It was a bird, roughly carved, one wing larger than the other. "My son made this," she whispered. The traveler felt the old mind awaken. A sign, proof, a message from the river. He looked at the woman. She was shaking. "Does this mean he is alive?" she asked. The traveler did not answer quickly. The object could have entered the river years ago. It could have traveled from far away. It could have belonged to someone else. He would not build certainty from hope. "I do not know." The woman closed her fingers around the carving. Tears returned. But this time something else moved with them. Not certainty, possibility. The river had carried something back. Not her son, not an answer, only a small piece of wood. Still, it broke the story she had repeated for 7 years. The river only takes. That story was no longer complete. The river carried away. The river carried toward. The river changed direction. The river did not belong to her grief. The woman looked at the water. I blamed it for everything. The traveler sat beside her. It was easier than blaming life or myself. "Yes. Do you think I can leave this place? I think you can stand." She breathed slowly. Then she stood. Her legs shook. The traveler offered his arm. She did not take it at first. Then she did. Together they walked away from the bank. After several steps, the woman turned back. The river continued as it always had. It did not apologize. It did not explain. It did not return what she had asked for. But it no longer held her entire life. At the edge of the village, she gave the traveler the wooden bowl. He tried to refuse. "It belonged to your son. That is why I am giving it to you. I cannot take this. You sat beside me when you had no answer." The traveler held the bowl carefully. "What should I do with it?" My son believed a bowl should never remain empty when someone nearby was hungry. The traveler looked at the worn wood. The woman placed the carved bird inside it. "Carry this," she said. "Perhaps the river has not finished changing direction." The traveler left the village with the bowl beneath his arm. He did not know where he was going next. Near sunset, he reached a village where hunger had entered before him, and a child was waiting beside the road with nothing to eat. The woman left the river. But leaving the river did not mean the river had left her. For 7 years, she had built her days around that water. She woke before sunrise. She carried the wooden bowl. She walked the same path. She sat beneath the same bent tree. She watched the current as though it might one day explain itself. Now she stood at the edge of the village with the traveler beside her. The river moved behind them. Her body had turned away from it. Her mind had not. This is often how change begins. The feet move first. The heart follows slowly. People sometimes think that one clear moment should remove years of pain. A truth is spoken, a decision is made, a door is closed. Then they expect peace. But the mind has habits. Grief has habits. The body learns where to look, what to fear, and what to wait for. A person can leave the river and still hear it in every quiet room. The woman held the carved bird in one hand. The wooden bowl rested beneath her arm. The traveler asked, "Where will you go now?" She looked toward the village. "I have a house." "You have not been living there?" "I sleep there." "That is not what I asked." The woman understood. For years her house had been only the place where she waited for morning. She had not cared for it. She had not welcomed anyone. She had not cooked more than she needed. Dust had gathered in rooms that once held her family. Her husband's sandals remained beside the door. Her son's blanket remained folded near the wall. She had protected these objects from change. She believed that if the house stayed the same, the life that had disappeared might still know where to return. We do this in many ways. We hold old messages. We leave a chair untouched. We repeat the last conversation. We refuse new joy because it feels like someone else's place would be taken. We say we are remembering. Sometimes we are trying to stop time. The woman walked toward her house. The traveler followed. The door was difficult to open. The wood had swollen from rain. She pushed once, then again. The traveler placed his hand against it. Together they forced it open. The air inside was still. Dust floated in the light. The woman stopped at the doorway. Her eyes moved across the room. Nothing had changed. That was the problem. The traveler did not enter until she did. She stepped inside. The wooden floor made a soft sound beneath her feet. On the table sat a clay cup her son had used. Near the wall was a small knife her husband had sharpened. The woman touched neither. She stood in the middle of the room as though she had entered the house of someone who had died. In a way, she had. The woman who once lived there had been a wife, a mother, a person who complained about burned rice and wet clothes, a person who laughed when her son returned with mud on his face. That woman had disappeared beside the river too. The grieving woman had believed the current took her husband and son, but grief had taken the rest. Her appetite, her friendships, her interest in the changing seasons, her willingness to be surprised by another day. The river had not stolen all of this. She had given much of it away because she did not know how to carry loss and life at the same time. The traveler said, "May I open the window?" The woman looked at him quickly. "My son used to sit beside it." The traveler waited. She understood what he was really asking. Could fresh air enter a room filled with memory? Could the house change without erasing the people who once lived there? She nodded. The traveler opened the window. Light entered. The curtain moved. Dust rose and shifted. The woman began to cry. Not because the window had harmed anything, because it had not. Her husband's knife remained. Her son's cup remained. Their memory remained. The room changed, and love did not disappear. This is a truth grief learns slowly. Change is not always betrayal. A window can open, a room can be cleaned, a life can continue. What mattered does not vanish because we begin breathing again. The traveler picked up a broom. The woman looked at him. "You sweep everywhere you go?" He smiled. "It seems so." She almost laughed. The sound was small, but it was real. They began cleaning. The traveler swept the floor. The woman wiped the table. At first, she moved carefully around every object connected to her family. Then she lifted the clay cup. Her hands shook. She washed it. She placed it upside down to dry. Nothing terrible happened. She folded the old blanket again and moved it from the sleeping mat into a chest. Her son was not forgotten. The room simply had space to breathe. By evening, the house looked different, not new, not healed, only awake. The traveler sat near the door. The woman prepared rice. She had not cooked for another person in years. She measured too much water. The rice became soft. When she opened the pot, she looked embarrassed. "My son always said I ruined rice when I was distracted." The traveler tasted it. He was right. She stared at him. Then she laughed. This time the sound filled the room. It also brought tears. Joy and sorrow arrived together. The woman covered her face. "I do not know how to do this." "Do what?" "Laugh without feeling guilty." The traveler placed his bowl down. "Perhaps guilt is another way of trying to remain beside the river." She looked at him. He continued, "If you suffer every day, you feel you have not left them. And if I become happy, you may fear they will become less real." The woman nodded. This fear had lived inside her without words. "If I stop hurting," she said, "what remains of my love?" The traveler thought of the bird. He had been sad when it flew, but its leaving did not erase the care between them. "Love remains," he said. "Pain is not the only proof that love existed." The woman looked toward the open window. The night air moved the curtain. For years, she had confused grief with devotion. She believed suffering kept her close to those she had lost, but pain had not brought them closer. It had only made her world smaller. Buddhist teaching does not ask us to stop loving. It asks us to see that clinging and love are not the same. Love says, "You mattered." Clinging says, "You must remain in the form I knew." Love can bow to change. Clinging fights the river. The woman had fought for years, not with the water, with the truth that nothing she loved could be held forever. Her husband had changed from living presence into memory. Her son had changed from certainty into mystery. Her home had changed from a family home into a quiet house. Her own body had aged. The village had changed around her. She had treated all of this movement as theft. But change is not a thief. It is the condition of everything that lives. The river did not create this truth. It only made it visible. The next morning, the woman did not walk to the river. She woke at the usual time. Her body expected the old path. Her hand reached for the wooden bowl. She stopped. The bowl sat on the table. The carved bird rested inside it. She felt fear. What if this was the day her son returned to the riverbank? What if he came looking for her and found no one? The traveler saw the struggle on her face. "You want to go back?" "Yes." "Then go." She looked surprised. "You think I should?" "I think you should see clearly why you're going." The woman sat down. This was harder than being told what to do. The traveler continued, "If you go because you want to sit by the river this morning, go. If you go because fear says you must guard the past, notice that." The woman looked at the bowl. For years, she had called her return love. Now she saw the fear beneath it. If I am not there, something will happen. If I stop waiting, I will miss the answer. If I release the pain, life will think I no longer care. The mind often creates duties that no one has given us. We carry them for years. We say, "I must keep worrying. I must keep checking. I must keep the door open." But worry is not protection. Waiting is not always loyalty. Sometimes the most faithful act is to let the day become new. The woman did not go to the river. Instead, she opened the front door. She swept the step. A neighbor passed and stopped. For years the woman had avoided her. Now they looked at each other. The neighbor said, "You are home." "Yes." The words sounded strange. "You are home." The woman had thought home was where her husband and son were. Then she thought home was the riverbank where she waited for them. Now she stood inside a quiet house. Home had changed again. The neighbor entered. They drank tea. The conversation was awkward, then ordinary. They spoke about rain, a leaking roof, a child who had grown tall. The woman discovered that the village had continued living while she sat beside the river. Children had been born, old people had died, families had moved away, new families had arrived. She felt sadness for the years she had missed. The traveler saw it. "Do not turn regret into another riverbank," he said. She understood. The mind can leave one prison and quickly build another. I wasted too much time. I should have healed sooner. I should have known better. But regret cannot return the lost years. It can only steal the day that remains. The woman breathed slowly. "What do I do with all the time I lost?" "Use the time that is here." Again, the answer was simple. Simple did not mean easy. Over the next several days, the woman began returning to the village. She helped a neighbor prepare food. She repaired part of her roof. She gave old clothes to a family with young children. She still thought about the river. She still woke some mornings with the need to run back. Sometimes she went. But now she did not sit there all day. She watched the current. She remembered. Then she stood and returned home. The river had become part of her life again, not the whole of it. One afternoon, she and the traveler walked there together. The water was lower. Stones appeared near the bank. She said, "I used to believe the river took the life meant for me." The traveler listened. "I thought my husband and son were my life. When they disappeared, I believed everything meant for me had ended." She looked at the moving water. But perhaps life did not end. It changed direction. The traveler nodded. The words were hers now. "A lesson becomes real only when it is no longer borrowed." The woman continued. "The river carried them away from the life I knew. It carried me too. I only refused to move." The traveler touched the red thread around his wrist. She looked at the wooden bowl in her hands. "My son fed anyone who came to our door," she said. "Yes. For 7 years I kept this bowl empty." The traveler said nothing. The woman held it out to him. "Take it." He stepped back. "No." She smiled. "That is what the monk said to you, is it not?" The traveler looked surprised. He had told her the story. "Yes." "Then listen before refusing again." She placed the bowl between them. "This bowl belonged to my son. I kept it because I thought holding it kept part of him here." Her fingers moved over the worn edge. "But he did not keep it empty. He used it." She looked at the traveler. "If I truly trust that his kindness mattered, then the bowl should continue carrying food." The traveler accepted it slowly. The wood was warm from her hands. "What should I do with it?" "Fill it when someone is hungry." "And the carved bird?" "Keep it inside until the bowl is needed." She placed the small carving in the bowl. The traveler looked toward the village road. He did not know where it led. The woman saw the question in his face. "You do not need to know who will receive it." The traveler smiled. She had learned well. "And you?" he asked. "What will you do?" The woman looked toward her house. "I will cook too much rice again." They both laughed. Then the traveler bowed. The woman bowed in return. He walked away, carrying the bowl beneath his arm. Behind him, the woman remained beside the river for a few moments. Then she turned toward home. The river had not returned her husband. It had not explained her son. It had not apologized for changing her life. But she no longer believed it had stolen everything meant for her. Some of what was meant for her had already come. Love, loss, years beside the water, a stranger who sat without answers, a house waiting to be opened, and now a life that did not look like the one she had planned. The traveler followed the road until evening. Near the next village, he saw people gathered around an empty grain store. Hunger had arrived before him. A child sat alone beside the road. The child looked at the wooden bowl, then at the traveler. The bowl had finally reached the hands that needed it. The bowl had reached a hungry village, but it was still empty. The traveler entered near sunset. No smoke rose from the cooking fires. No children chased one another between the houses. No one called across the road. The village was quiet in the way places become quiet when people are saving their strength. A dry season had lasted too long. The fields had failed. The grain store was almost empty. Families had begun counting every handful of rice before cooking it. Some ate once a day. Some pretended they had already eaten so that someone younger could have more. Hunger changes a village. It shortens conversations. It makes people move slowly. It turns ordinary kindness into a difficult choice. The traveler stood near the road with the wooden bowl beneath his arm. Inside his bag, he had one small meal left. Rice wrapped in leaves, a little dried bean paste. Enough to carry him through the night, not enough to share without becoming hungry himself. Then he saw the child. The child sat beside a wall with both knees pulled close to the chest, thin arms, dust on the face, eyes fixed on the traveler's bag. The child tried not to stare. This was not the open hunger of someone asking for food. It was the quiet hunger of someone who had already learned not to expect it. The traveler knew that look. There are people who stop asking because disappointment has become too familiar. A child asks once, then again, then learns that the adults have nothing. After that, the child becomes careful. Careful with words, careful with hope, careful not to make another person feel ashamed for being unable to help. The traveler approached slowly. "Have you eaten?" The child looked away. "Yes." The traveler knew this was not true. He sat several steps away. "What did you eat?" The child said nothing. The traveler placed the wooden bowl between them. The carved bird still rested inside it. The child reached toward the bird, then stopped. "You may hold it," the traveler said. The child picked it up. One wing was larger than the other. The child turned it between small fingers. "Did you make this?" "No." "Who did?" "A boy who once believed every hungry person should be fed." The child looked into the empty bowl. "Where is he?" "I do not know." The traveler removed the wrapped rice from his bag. He held it for a moment. His stomach tightened at the smell. He had walked all day. His body wanted the food. This is where kindness becomes real. Not when we give what we do. Not need, when giving costs something. It is easy to speak about generosity when our own bowl is full. It is easy to tell others not to cling when we are not the ones facing loss. The traveler had listened to teachings about compassion. He had watched monks share food. He had heard that attachment caused suffering. Now there was one meal, one hungry child, one hungry traveler. No teaching would choose for him. He opened the leaves and placed the rice inside the wooden bowl. The child stared at it. "This is for you," the traveler said. The child did not move. "Is there more?" "No." "For you?" "No." The child looked suspicious. "Then why are you giving it to me?" The traveler almost answered with something noble. "Because generosity brings merit. Because compassion is the path. Because the bowl was meant to feed someone hungry." But the child did not need a teaching. The child needed honesty. "Because you are hungry." "So are you." "Yes." The child looked at the food again. "Then we can share." The traveler felt relief. Sharing would still leave him something. The child would eat. He would eat. The choice would not cost as much. Then he remembered the woman's words. Fill it when someone is hungry. The bowl did not belong to his fear. He pushed it closer. "Eat." The child lifted a small handful, then stopped. "Are you sure?" The traveler nodded. The child began eating, slowly at first, then quickly. The traveler looked away. He did not want the child to feel watched. He looked at the village. An old man sat outside a house, rubbing an empty grain sack between his hands. A mother carried a sleeping baby whose face seemed too thin. Two boys searched beneath a tree for fallen seeds. The traveler's one meal could not solve this. That thought disturbed him. What is the use of feeding one child when a whole village is hungry? The mind often uses the size of suffering as a reason to do nothing. The need is too great. My help is too small. The problem will remain. So we keep what we have. We wait for someone richer, stronger, more powerful, someone who can change everything. But the child did not need the whole village saved in that moment. The child needed food. Compassion does not always begin with a solution large enough for the world. It begins with refusing to turn away from the life directly in front of us. The child finished half the rice, then placed the bowl down. The traveler looked at the remaining food. "Are you full?" The child shook the head. "Then keep eating." The child picked up the bowl and stood. "Where are you going?" The child pointed toward the old man with the empty grain sack. "He has not eaten today." The traveler watched the child carry the bowl across the road. The old man looked up. The child sat beside him, then offered the remaining rice. The old man refused. The child insisted. At last, they ate together. The traveler felt something open in him. He had believed the meal was his gift. But generosity had already moved beyond him. This is how kindness travels. One person opens a hand. Another learns that an open hand is possible. The gift changes form as it moves. Rice becomes relief. Relief becomes trust. Trust becomes another offering. The traveler had not fed one child. He had placed something into motion. The wooden bowl passed from the child to the old man. Then a woman brought a little water. Someone else found 2 dried roots. A family opened a jar they had been saving. Small amounts appeared. Not enough. Still something. People gathered near the road. The traveler saw shame on some faces. Hunger often carries shame even when no one has done anything wrong. People apologize for needing help. They hide empty cupboards. They say they are not hungry. They believe hardship has made them less worthy. But hunger is not a moral failure. Poverty is not proof that a person has lived badly. Life is shaped by many conditions: rain, illness, war, loss, birth, chance, the actions of rulers, the choices of strangers. No life stands alone. Buddhism teaches that all things arise through conditions. A harvest does not fail because one farmer is unworthy. A child does not hunger because the child lacks goodness. Suffering is not always punishment. The traveler had once searched for signs in every event. Now he saw the danger in that. If every hardship is a message, then people may begin believing they deserve their pain. The village did not need judgment. It needed food. A woman approached the traveler. "You gave your meal?" "Yes." "Do you have money?" "No." "Grain?" "No." "Then what can you do?" The traveler looked at the gathered people. "I can work." The next morning, he joined several villagers near the dry fields. They cleared a blocked well. The work was hard. Mud had collapsed along one side. Rocks filled the bottom. The traveler climbed down with a rope around his waist. Others pulled stones upward. By midday, a little water began collecting. Not enough for all the fields. Enough for drinking. Again, the help was small. Again, it mattered. The traveler stayed. One day became 3. 3 became 7. He repaired roofs, carried water, helped gather wild greens near the hills. He slept hungry some nights. The villagers did too. There was no sudden miracle. No cart of grain arrived because he had been generous. This is important. Kindness does not always produce immediate reward. The world does not owe us comfort because we acted well. Generosity is not a trade with life. We do not give so that fate will give back. We give because another being is suffering and we are able to lessen it even slightly. The value is already present in the act. The traveler was learning to stop asking what each good action would bring him. For years he had treated life like a hidden bargain. If I choose correctly, I will find where I belong. If I follow the right sign, I will avoid regret. If I become good enough, life will reveal my future. But goodness does not purchase certainty. It shapes the person we become while living without it. One evening the child returned the wooden bowl. It had been washed. The carved bird sat inside. The traveler took it. "You should keep the bowl," he said. The child shook the head. "It is yours. It belonged to someone else before me. Then maybe it belongs to whoever is hungry." The traveler smiled. "That may be true." The child sat beside him. "Why are you traveling?" The traveler looked toward the road. "I used to think I was searching for the place meant for me. And now, I am not sure." The child considered this. "Maybe a place becomes yours when you help there." The traveler looked at the child. Simple words can reach places that long teachings miss. The traveler had asked monks, farmers, merchants, and rivers where he belonged. The child gave him another possibility. Belonging might not be found, it might be practiced. A person belongs where attention becomes care, where care becomes responsibility, where presence changes something, even for one day. The traveler felt close to the village now, not because a sign had told him to stay, because he knew the names of the people. He knew which roof leaked, which child was afraid of the dark, which old man told the same story every evening. The village had become real to him. This made leaving difficult. He noticed another truth. We sometimes keep moving because real belonging asks something from us. It asks us to be known, to be needed, to disappoint people, to remain when life becomes ordinary. The traveler wondered whether he should stay. Again, he wanted an answer. Again, none came. One morning, a merchant's cart appeared on the road. It carried sacks of grain from a town beyond the hills. The village gathered quickly. The merchant had heard of the failed harvest and agreed to sell at a lower price. Still, many families had little money. The traveler offered to work beside the merchant for several days in exchange for grain. The merchant agreed. Slowly, food entered the houses. The crisis did not end completely, but the tightness in the village began to ease. Cooking smoke rose again. Children spoke louder. The child who had received the traveler's meal brought him a small piece of bread. "For you," the child said. The traveler accepted it. He did not refuse out of pride. Receiving is also part of generosity. Some people know how to give, but not how to receive. They believe needing help makes them weak. They become useful to everyone and known by no one. But an open life must allow kindness to move in both directions. The traveler ate the bread. It was hard. It was one of the best meals he had ever tasted. That evening, the old man with the grain sack came to sit beside him. The old man looked at the wooden bowl. His expression changed. "Where did you get that?" "A woman beside the river gave it to me." The old man took the bowl carefully. He turned it over. Near the base was a small mark burned into the wood. The traveler had never noticed it. The old man touched the mark. "I know this bowl." The traveler sat straighter. "How?" "It belonged to a young man who passed through here years ago." The traveler felt the old pull of mystery. The woman's missing son, the carved bird, the bowl. The road suddenly seemed full of signs again. He steadied himself. "What do you remember?" The old man looked into the empty bowl. He arrived during another hard season, not as bad as this one, but people were hungry. What did he do? He gave away his food. The traveler looked toward the child. The old man continued. He stayed for a time. Then he left toward the forest in the east. Did he say where he was going? He spoke of a temple where no one used their old names. The traveler felt his heart quicken. Was he alone? At first. And later. The old man looked at the carved bird. Later he traveled with monks. Do you know if he is alive? No. The traveler breathed slowly. No certainty, only another piece. The old man handed back the bowl. He used to say an empty bowl was not useless. What did he mean? He said, emptiness gives the bowl room to receive and room to give. The traveler looked inside it. For most of its journey, the bowl had been empty. Yet the emptiness was not failure. It was readiness. A full bowl can feed someone. An empty bowl can be carried toward the next need. The traveler placed the carved bird inside. By morning, he knew his next honest step. Not because fate had shouted, because someone might still be waiting for news beside the river. He would travel east toward the forest temple, but before he could leave, the child came running with half a piece of bread. The child had saved it for another hungry stranger sitting near the village gate. The traveler watched the child offer it. The bowl had taught one lesson. The child was about to teach the next. The child had been hungry. Still, the child shared half. The traveler watched from across the road. The old beggar sat near the village gate with his back against a broken wall. His clothes were thin. His hair was white. A small cloth bag rested beside him. The child carried the wooden bowl carefully. Half the rice remained inside. The child stopped in front of the old man. "Are you hungry?" The beggar looked at the bowl, then at the child. "No." The answer came too quickly. The child knew this answer. Hungry people often say no when they believe someone else has less. The child sat beside him. "I was hungry too." The beggar smiled. "Then you should finish it. I ate half. You need the other half. So do you." The old man looked away. This is where generosity becomes difficult to receive. The beggar had spent years accepting what people no longer wanted. Cold food, broken sandals, coins thrown without eye contact. He had learned to make himself small, to ask for little, to disappear before his need became uncomfortable. But the child was not offering what remained after being full. The child was offering half while still hungry. That kind of gift can be painful to accept. It shows us that another person is willing to carry part of our need. Many people can endure suffering more easily than they can allow someone to help. Suffering feels private. Receiving makes us visible. The beggar shook his head. "Eat." The child placed the bowl on his lap. "We can share again." The old man looked at the rice. Then he lifted a small handful. The child did the same. They ate slowly. Neither had enough. Still, for those few moments, neither ate alone. The traveler came closer. He sat near them. The beggar looked at him. "Is this your child?" "No." "Your bowl? It was given to me." The old man touched the edge. His fingers stopped. He turned the bowl slightly. Near the bottom was a small burned mark, a circle crossed by one short line. The beggar's face changed. He lifted the bowl closer to his eyes. "Where did you get this?" The traveler felt the old part of his mind awaken, the part that wanted every object to become a sign. He breathed. "A woman beside the river gave it to me." The beggar looked toward him quickly. "An older woman?" "Yes." "Does she have a scar near her left wrist?" The traveler remembered seeing a pale mark there. "Yes." The beggar closed his eyes. For a long moment, no one spoke. The child looked from one man to the other. "What is it?" the child asked. The beggar placed the bowl on the ground. "I knew the person who carried this." The traveler leaned forward. "The woman's son." The old man nodded. The traveler's heart began to beat faster. For 7 years the woman had waited beside the river. She had blamed the water. She had feared her son was dead. Now an old beggar in a hungry village held the bowl and spoke as though the missing man had once sat beside him. "Tell me," the traveler said. The beggar did not answer immediately. Some memories are not hidden because they are forgotten. They are hidden because speaking them changes what someone else must carry. The old man looked at the child. "Go and find some water." The child stood. "I can stay." "This is an old person's story." The child frowned. "All stories become children's stories when old people die." The beggar laughed softly. The traveler smiled. The child remained. The old man gave up trying to send the child away. He looked at the bowl again. His name was Arun. The traveler had never heard the son's name. The woman had always called him my son. Grief often changes people into roles. My husband, my daughter, my brother, the one who left, the one I lost. A name brings back the whole person. Arun, a young man who burned rice, who carved uneven birds, who fed strangers, who once held this bowl. The beggar continued. He came through this village many years ago. He was thin, but not as thin as I was. You were already begging. No. The old man touched his cloth bag. I was a trader. The traveler waited. The beggar's voice became quieter. I sold medicine, cloth, and small tools. I traveled between villages. I had 2 donkeys and enough money to believe I was safe. What happened? A group of thieves took everything. The child moved closer. The old man continued. They beat me and left me near the road. I could not walk. I had no food. No one knew me. Arun found you. Yes. The beggar looked at the bowl. He gave me water from this. The traveler thought of the woman's words. My son believed a bowl should never remain empty when someone nearby was hungry. The old man said, he stayed with me for 3 days. Was he traveling alone? At first. Did he tell you why he left home? The beggar nodded slowly. He said he had begun forgetting things. The traveler became still. What things? Small things first. Names, roads he knew, where he placed objects, then larger things. The old man looked toward the fields. He became afraid. This was not what the traveler expected. He had imagined the son leaving in search of purpose, or freedom, or spiritual truth. But perhaps he had left because his own mind had begun changing. Life does not always move in the stories we prefer. The beggar continued. Arun said he went to the river because he wanted to think. He planned to return home before dark. What happened? He became confused. The woman had waited 7 years, believing the river had taken him, but the river may not have taken him at all. His own memory had changed the road. The beggar said he crossed with a group of travelers. On the other side, he could not remember which direction led home. Why did he not ask? He did, and he could remember the village but not its name. The traveler felt the pain of this. A person can know that home exists and still be unable to find it. This is a different kind of loss, not losing the place, losing the path back to it. He followed the travelers, the beggar said. He thought memory would return. Did it? Some pieces did. Then they disappeared again. The child asked, did he forget his mother? The old man's face softened. No, he remembered her. Then why did he not return? He was ashamed. The traveler looked at him. Ashamed of being ill? Ashamed of what he could no longer do. This is common. People hide pain because they believe difficulty makes them a burden. They disappear rather than allowing the people who love them to see weakness. They tell themselves they are protecting others. Often, they are protecting their own pride. Arun remembered his mother. He remembered enough to miss her, but perhaps not enough to find his way home. And each passing day made returning harder. What would he say? How would he explain the silence? Would she forgive him? Would she recognize the person he had become? The traveler knew this fear. The longer we stay away, the larger the door home becomes. One missed message becomes a month. 1 month becomes a year. Then shame says, it is too late now. The old man continued. After helping me, Arun joined a group of monks traveling east. To the forest temple? Yes. Why? They told him there was a place where people did not need their old names. The traveler remembered what the old man in the village had said. A temple where no one used their former names. Perhaps Aaron had not gone there because he had found enlightenment. Perhaps he had gone because a place without old names felt safe to someone losing his own. The traveler held the wooden bowl. "Is he alive?" The beggar looked down. "He was alive when I last saw him." "How long ago?" 7 years. The answer was not enough. Still, it was more than the woman had. The traveler asked, "Why did you not tell anyone?" "Who would I tell?" "You knew his village was beside the river." "There are many villages beside rivers." "You knew his mother's scar." "I knew little." The old man's voice tightened. "And I was trying to survive." The traveler felt anger begin. 7 years, the woman waiting, the old man knowing something, but anger wants simple blame. Life is rarely simple. The beggar had been injured, poor, without a home. He carried his own suffering. We often expect wounded people to behave like heroes. Then we judge them when survival takes everything they have. The traveler let the anger settle. "What else did he tell you?" The old man closed his eyes. "He said his mother held everything too tightly." The traveler thought of the woman laughing beside the river. "My son used to tell me that." He said it with love. The beggar smiled. He said she held bowls, money, doors, and people, as though the world might steal them if she loosened her hand. The traveler looked at the red thread around his wrist. The woman had believed the river stole her life, but her son had also been fighting his own fear. One held too tightly, the other disappeared rather than returning imperfect. Both had acted from love mixed with fear. This is how many families suffer. Not because love is absent, because love becomes tangled with shame, control, silence, and the desire to protect. People hurt one another while trying not to cause pain. The child asked, "Did Aaron give you the bowl?" The beggar shook his head. "No, he carried it until he reached the forest road." "Then how did the woman have it?" The old man touched the burned mark. "This is the secret." The traveler listened. Aaron gave the bowl to a monk who was traveling back toward the river. "Why?" "He wanted it returned to his mother." The traveler's breath caught. "Did he send a message?" "Yes." "What was it?" The beggar looked at him. He said, "Tell her I am alive. Tell her I am trying to remember the road home." The traveler felt grief rise inside him. The message had never arrived. The bowl had returned, but not the words. "How did the woman receive the bowl?" "I do not know." "Then the monk failed?" "Perhaps. Or died. Perhaps. Or forgot. Perhaps." Again, uncertainty. A message had been sent. A mother had waited. Somewhere between them, life had broken the line. This happens more often than we know. A person believes they were forgotten. Another believes their message was delivered. One waits for an apology. The other thinks forgiveness was understood. Human lives separate through missed words, delayed truth, fear, distance. Sometimes love is present on both sides and still cannot find its way across. The traveler looked at the bowl. It had carried food, water, memory. Now it carried a message 7 years late. The child said, "You should tell the woman." "Yes," the traveler said, "now." The traveler looked toward the eastern road. He also needed to find the forest temple. The woman deserved to know Aaron had been alive, but if the traveler returned first, he might lose time. If he went east first, she would continue waiting without truth. The old urge returned. Which path is meant for me? Which choice is correct? He wanted a sign. None came. The beggar watched him. "You are trying to choose without losing anything." The traveler looked at him. The old man smiled. "I was a trader. I know that face." The traveler said, "If I go back to the woman, the trail may grow cold. If you go east, her waiting continues. What would you do?" The beggar shook his head. My answer would make the choice easier for me, not truer for you." The traveler almost laughed. Everyone he met had learned to refuse his future. The child picked up the carved bird. "Go east," the child said. The traveler looked at the child. "Why?" "Because the woman already knows how to wait." The words hurt. The child continued. "But maybe Arun does not know anyone is looking." Simple, not perfect, but honest. The traveler decided. He would go east. He would find the forest temple. Then he would return to the woman with everything he could learn. He looked at the old beggar. "Will you come?" The old man shook his head. "My legs will not carry me that far." "Will you stay in this village?" "For a while," the child said. "He can stay near my family." The beggar looked surprised. The child held out the wooden bowl. "You shared with me. Now someone must share with you." The old man's eyes filled. The traveler saw generosity moving again. He had given the child a meal. The child had shared with the beggar. Now the child offered belonging. A gift rarely ends where we think it does. It travels through people. It changes shape. Food becomes trust. Trust becomes shelter. Shelter becomes the courage to tell an old secret. The traveler placed the carved bird inside the bowl. The beggar stopped him. "Take this too." He opened his cloth bag and removed a small piece of blue fabric. A symbol had been stitched into it, a lotus beneath a crescent moon. "What is it?" "The monks wore this mark." The traveler accepted it. "It may help you find the temple." "Is this a sign?" the child asked. The traveler smiled. "No." "What is it?" "A useful piece of cloth." The child laughed. Before sunrise, the traveler left the village. The wooden bowl hung from his bag. The red thread remained around his wrist. The blue cloth rested near his heart. He carried no promise that Arun would be alive, only the truth that he had once survived the river. Ahead of him stood a forest where people had abandoned their old names, and somewhere inside it, a man may have been living without the name his mother still spoke every day. The son had not died in the river. He had lost the road back. The traveler carried this truth east. For years, the woman had believed the river had taken her son. Now the beggar had given another story. Arun had crossed the water alive. He had become confused. He had followed strangers because he could no longer remember the name of his village. He had joined monks because they offered him a place where old names were not required. The traveler walked with the wooden bowl tied to his bag. The red thread rested around his wrist. The blue cloth marked with a lotus lay near his chest. None of these objects promised that Arun was still alive. They only gave the traveler a direction. This was enough. He no longer needed the whole road before taking the next step. The eastern forest began beyond 3 low hills. People in the last village warned him. The paths divide inside. Travelers become lost. The monks do not welcome questions. One old man said, "People enter that forest because they want to disappear." The traveler thought of Arun. Perhaps that was exactly why he had gone. There are people who leave because they hate the life behind them. Others leave because they love it and feel too broken to return. Arun may have carried both love and shame into the forest. He remembered his mother. He remembered enough to send the bowl back. But he had also believed she should not see what was happening to him. This is one of the quiet cruelties of shame. It convinces us that hiding protects the people we love. We say, they should not have to carry this. I will return when I am better. I will speak when I can explain. I will come home when I am no longer a burden. Then days pass. The condition we were waiting to fix does not disappear. The distance grows. The person waiting believes they have been forgotten. The person hiding believes it is too late to return. 2 lives remain separated by words neither side knows how to say. The traveler entered the forest before noon. At first the path was clear. Tall trees stood close together. Roots pushed through the ground. Sunlight appeared in narrow pieces between the leaves. After some time, the trail divided. One path turned north. Another curved toward a stream. A third disappeared beneath thick plants. The traveler stopped. Once, he would have searched for a sign, a bird, a broken branch, a change in the wind. He would have turned the forest into a puzzle that existed only to guide him. Now he looked more carefully. The northern path carried fresh footprints. The stream path showed marks from cart wheels. The third path seemed unused. He followed the footprints, not because fate had chosen them, because people had recently walked there. Simple attention had replaced mystery. By evening, he found a small shelter built beneath 2 trees. A monk sat outside, repairing a sandal. The traveler bowed. "I am looking for the forest temple." The monk did not look up. There are many places called temples. The monks wear this mark. The traveler showed him the blue cloth. The monk's hands stopped. "Where did you get that?" "From an old beggar who once met a young man named Arun." The monk looked at him. Names carried weight in this forest. The traveler saw it immediately. "Do you know him?" The monk returned to the sandal. "We do not use old names here." "Then you do know him." The monk said nothing. The traveler sat on the ground. He had learned not to force every silence. The monk continued working. Night insects began calling from the trees. At last, the monk said, "Why are you searching for this man?" "His mother believes he died." Perhaps the man she knew did die. The traveler felt anger. He crossed the river alive. Bodies can survive while lives end. She has waited 7 years. Waiting does not create ownership. The traveler looked at the monk. "No, but love deserves truth." The monk tied the sandal strap. Truth is not always kind. Silence has not been kind. The monk raised his eyes. For a moment, neither spoke. The traveler understood that the monk was not trying to be cruel. He was protecting something. Perhaps Arun, perhaps the temple, perhaps himself. "What happened to him?" the traveler asked. The monk sighed. "He arrived with a group of us many years ago." "Was he already losing his memory?" "Yes." "Was he ill?" "We did not know." The monk placed the sandal beside him. He remembered some things clearly, then they vanished. He could describe his mother's face, but not the village where she lived. He could remember a song from childhood, but forget that he had eaten. The traveler thought of the woman beside the river. For 7 years, she had carried one unchanging image of her son. She did not know that his own mind had become a place where images appeared and disappeared. "Why did he become a monk?" the traveler asked. The monk looked toward the trees. "Because he wanted a life that did not depend on remembering who he had been." The answer entered slowly. Most people use memory to build the self. I am the child of these parents. I come from this place. I have suffered these things. I have achieved this. I failed there. I was loved by this person. I was abandoned by another. Memory arranges these pieces and calls the result me. But what happens when the pieces begin to disappear? Arun had entered the forest carrying this fear. If he could no longer remember himself, did he still exist in the same way? The Buddha taught that the self is not a fixed object. It is made from changing conditions, body, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness, all moving, all changing. We suffer when we try to find something permanent inside what cannot remain still. But this teaching can sound peaceful when spoken in a hall. It feels different when memory begins leaving without permission. Arun had not chosen to release his old identity through wisdom. His mind was releasing it through illness. The monk continued. He believed becoming a monk would free him from the shame of forgetting. Did it? No. The traveler listened. At first, the temple helped him. The days were simple: wake, wash, sweep, eat, sit, work, rest. He did not need to remember much beyond the next task. The traveler thought of the broom at the mountain monastery. Simple work could hold a person when the mind could not hold itself. Then what changed? He began remembering more. The traveler felt hope. His memory returned, pieces of it, enough to go home, perhaps. Then why did he remain? The monk's face tightened. Because returning had become more frightening than staying. The traveler knew this. The longer we delay an honest act, the larger it becomes. An apology grows teeth. A return becomes a trial. A conversation becomes a mountain. Arun may have thought of his mother every day. Still, each day of silence made the next day harder. What was he afraid of? The traveler asked. That she would ask why he stayed away. She would. That she would forgive him. The traveler looked confused. Why fear forgiveness? Because forgiveness would show him how much suffering he had caused. This was true. Sometimes people avoid forgiveness because blame feels easier to carry. If the other person remains angry, we can protect ourselves with distance. But if they forgive us, we must face what our fear created. The monk continued. He said his mother held tightly to everything she loved. He feared that if he returned changed, she would try to hold the person he used to be. The traveler remembered her house, the old sandals, the folded blanket, the closed window. Arun had known her well. He may have been right, the traveler said. The monk nodded. And he may have been wrong. This is the tragedy of fear. It makes decisions from what might happen. Then those decisions create real suffering. Arun feared his mother would not accept his changed mind, so he did not give her the chance. The woman feared leaving the river would mean abandoning him, so she abandoned the rest of her life. Both built prisons from love. Both believed they were protecting something. The traveler asked, "Where is he now?" The monk stood. "The temple is one day east. Will you take me?" "No." "Why?" "Because I left." The traveler looked at him. "You were one of them." "Yes." "Why did you leave?" The monk picked up his repaired sandal. "Because the temple became too good at helping people disappear." Then he entered the shelter. The traveler remained outside. The words stayed with him. A place can begin as refuge and become avoidance. Silence can begin as healing and become hiding. Solitude can begin as peace and become fear of being known. Spiritual life can become another way to escape ordinary human pain. We may meditate instead of apologizing, speak of detachment instead of admitting we are afraid to love. Call everything impermanent so we do not have to grieve. Say we have released the past when we have only buried it. Buddhist practice is not meant to remove us from life. It is meant to help us meet life clearly. The forest temple may have given Arun safety. It may also have allowed him to delay the truth. Before dawn, the monk came outside. He handed the traveler a small bundle of food. "You will find 3 stones beside the eastern stream. Turn north there." The traveler accepted the food. "So you will help me. I am giving directions." "Why?" The monk looked toward the forest. "Because I once told Arun that no one was waiting for him." The traveler became still. "Why would you say that?" "I thought I was helping him release attachment." "Did you know about his mother?" "I knew only what he remembered." "And what did he remember?" "That she worried, that she held tightly, that he had disappointed her." The monk looked down. "I used Buddhist words to support his fear." This confession was not easy. The traveler could see it. I told him the past was gone. I told him attachment caused suffering. I told him returning would only reopen pain. Did you believe that? At the time, and now? Now I know detachment without compassion can become coldness. The traveler listened. The teaching is not that people do not matter, the monk said. It is that we cannot possess them. Love should become freer, not smaller. The woman had needed to learn this beside the river. Perhaps Aaron needed to learn it inside the forest. The traveler bowed. The monk stopped him. If you find him, do not promise his mother that he will return. I will not. Do not force him. I will not. Do not use her suffering as a chain around his neck. The traveler felt the truth in this. The woman deserved knowledge. Aaron still deserved freedom. Trusting what is meant for us does not mean dragging people back into the roles they once filled. The son may return, he may not. The mother may receive truth without receiving the future she wants. Compassion must hold both lives. The traveler followed the directions. He found the eastern stream. 3 stones stood near the water. He turned north. The forest became thicker. By afternoon he heard a bell, one sound, then silence. He followed it. The temple appeared slowly between the trees. No gate, no wall, only wooden buildings around a wide clearing. Monks moved quietly between them. Some were young, some old. None spoke. The traveler entered. A monk approached him. "What name should we use for you?" the monk asked. The traveler almost gave his name. Then he remembered. "You do not use old names here." "No." "Why?" "So no one is trapped by who they were." The traveler looked across the clearing. "And if someone needs to remember?" The monk's face changed slightly. "That is a different question." The traveler showed him the blue cloth. "I am looking for a man who arrived 7 years ago. He carved birds. He carried a wooden bowl. His mother lived beside a river." The monk looked toward the prayer hall. "You should leave. I have walked far. That does not give you the right to disturb him." "Then he is alive." The monk said nothing. The traveler felt relief and fear together. Alive. The word did not solve anything. It only opened another door. "Please," the traveler said. "His mother has waited beside the river every day." The monk lowered his eyes. "He no longer answers to the name you brought." "Does he remember her?" "Sometimes." "Does he want to return?" "Sometimes." This was more painful than a clear answer. The traveler looked toward the prayer hall. "May I speak to him?" The monk hesitated. Then a bell rang again. A man stepped out of the hall. His head was shaved. His movements were slow. Around his neck hung a small wooden bird. One wing was larger than the other. The traveler held the bowl. The man saw it. His face emptied, then filled with something the traveler could not name. Fear, recognition, grief, home. The bowl slipped from the traveler's hands and struck the ground. The wooden sound crossed the clearing. The monk looked at it. Then he whispered a word no one in the temple had spoken for years. "Mother." The monk looked at the bowl. Then he whispered, "Mother." The traveler did not move. Neither did the monks around them. The word seemed too large for the quiet clearing. For years, the forest temple had protected people from their old names. Names carried memory. Memory carried pain. Pain carried the lives they had tried to leave behind. So the monks were given new names. Names from trees, rivers, clouds, morning light. Things that did not ask them to explain who they had once been. The man with the wooden bird was called Still Water. No one there called him Aaron. No one asked whether he had been a son. No one asked why he had not returned home. The temple had given him a life without those questions, but the wooden bowl had entered the clearing carrying all of them. Still Water stared at it. The traveler bent and picked it up. A small crack had appeared near the edge. He held it carefully. "I came from the river village," he said. Still water stepped back. The monk beside him moved forward. "You should leave." The traveler looked at still water. "I am not here to force anyone." "Then leave." "I carried a message." The monk's voice became harder. "Old messages bring old suffering." The traveler understood the fear beneath those words. The temple believed it was protecting still water. Perhaps it had protected him many times, when memory failed, when shame became too heavy, when the thought of home made his body shake. But protection can become a wall. A wall keeps danger out. It can also keep truth from entering. The traveler placed the bowl on the ground between them. Still, water looked at it but did not come closer. The traveler asked, "Do you remember this?" No answer. "Do you remember the woman who used it?" Still, water closed his eyes. The monk beside him said, "He does not need this." The traveler looked at the monk. "Did he tell you that?" "We know his condition." "That is not what I asked." The monk became silent. The traveler had once searched with his eyes. He looked for marks, objects, faces, signs that would prove he had found the right person. But now the man stood in front of him, the carved bird, the whispered word, the fear. Everything pointed toward Arun. Still, something was missing. Recognition was not enough. A person is not found only because the face matches the story. A person is found when they feel safe enough to be seen. The traveler lowered himself to the ground. He sat beside the bowl. He did not ask another question. Still, water opened his eyes. The traveler looked toward the trees, not at him. The clearing slowly returned to movement. Monks carried water. Someone rang a small bell near the kitchen. Birds moved through the branches. Still water remained standing. The traveler waited. He had learned this beside the river. Compassion does not always speak first. Sometimes it creates a place where another person can speak without being pulled. After a long time, Stillwater asked, "Is she alive?" The traveler turned slowly. "Yes." Stillwater's face tightened. The monks around them became still again. The traveler continued, "She waited beside the river for 7 years." Stillwater looked away. The traveler saw shame arrive. It moved through his body like cold. His shoulders bent, his hands closed. The old monk beside him stepped closer. "You see," the monk said, "this is why the past should remain closed." The traveler shook his head. "No, this is why it needs kindness." Still, water said, "She thinks I died." She did. The words came out before the traveler could soften them. Still, water covered his face. The traveler felt the weight of what he had said. Truth can wound when it arrives without care. He moved closer but did not touch him. "She does not believe that now," he added. Still, water looked through his fingers. "How?" "I met a beggar who knew you. He told me you crossed the river alive." The monk lowered his hands. "Who?" "A trader you helped after thieves attacked him." Still, water searched his memory. The effort showed on his face. "A man beside the road?" "Yes." "With 2 donkeys?" "Yes." Still, water's eyes filled. "I remember the bowl." The traveler touched it. "You sent it back to your mother." "I tried. You sent a message too." Still, water's breath changed. "Did she receive it?" "No." He closed his eyes again. This pain was different. He had spent years believing a message reached her. Perhaps he imagined she knew he was alive. Perhaps this belief allowed him to remain. Now he saw the truth. The bowl returned. The words did not. A mother waited beside the river because somewhere on the road a message disappeared. Still water whispered, "I told the monk to say I was trying to remember the way home." The traveler nodded. She never heard it. Still water sat down. His body seemed suddenly older. The traveler did not fill the silence. There are moments when sorrow needs room, not because we want someone to suffer, because rushing toward comfort can become another refusal to see what is real. Still, water looked at the bowl. She kept it? Yes. For all these years? Yes. Was she angry? Yes. Did she hate me? I do not know. The traveler paused. She blamed the river. Still, water almost smiled. That sounds like her. The smile disappeared. She always needed something to hold responsible. She held herself responsible too. The monk looked down. The traveler could have told him more about the closed house, the untouched blanket, the open window, the laughter over ruined rice. But he understood that too much truth at once can become another flood. He gave only what still water could hold. She is living again, he said. Still water looked up. What does that mean? She left the riverbank. The monk's eyes widened. She gave me the bowl. Why? So it could keep feeding people. Still water touched the carved bird around his neck. My mother gave away the bowl. Yes. He looked confused. The woman he remembered held everything tightly, but 7 years had changed her. This is another pain of staying away too long. We keep an old image of the people we left. We assume they remain exactly as they were, the angry father, the fearful mother, the friend who never understood. We make decisions based on people who may no longer exist in the same way. Still, water had feared returning to a mother who would hold him too tightly. But the woman beside the river had learned to open her hand. The traveler said, "She changed." Still, water stared at him. So did I. Yes. The answer seemed to frighten him. He looked at the monk beside him. The monk was called Cedar. Cedar had cared for Stillwater through many difficult seasons. He helped when Stillwater forgot meals. He guided him when he became lost inside the temple grounds. He repeated simple instructions without anger. To Stillwater, the temple was not only a hiding place, it was safety. The traveler saw this. He could not speak as though home was good and the temple was wrong. Life is rarely divided so cleanly. A place can protect us and still become too small. A person can love us and still help us avoid what must be faced. A home can wound us and still remain part of who we are. Compassion sees more than one truth at a time. Cedar sat beside Stillwater. "You do not have to return," he said. The traveler looked at him. Stillwater looked relieved, then ashamed of the relief. The traveler said, "That is true." Both monks turned toward him. The traveler continued, "Your mother deserves truth, but truth does not mean you must become the son you once were." Stillwater listened carefully. "You do not owe her the return of your old self," the traveler said. "That person changed." Stillwater touched his chest. "I do not know who I am." The traveler thought of the temple's teaching, no old names, no fixed self, but he had seen how spiritual words could become hiding places. He answered simply, "You are the person sitting here now." Stillwater gave a tired laugh. "That is not much. It is enough for this moment." This is where Buddhist teaching becomes difficult and human. The self is not fixed. But that does not mean our relationships are unreal. Names change, memory changes, bodies change. Still, actions matter, promises matter, silence matters, love matters. We cannot use impermanence to escape responsibility. Nothing remains the same, but what we do becomes part of what changes next. Still, water had not returned. His mother suffered. He had also been frightened, ill, and ashamed. Both were true. Compassion did not ask the traveler to choose one truth and destroy the other. It asked him to hold both without turning either person into a villain. Still, Water looked toward the forest. "What does she want?" The traveler answered carefully. "She wanted you to return." The monk flinched. "Now?" "I do not know." "You spoke with her?" "Yes." "Then you should know." "No. People can want two things at once." Still, Water waited. "She may want to see you. She may also fear losing the life she has only just begun to rebuild." Still, Water looked surprised. The traveler continued. "She learned that love is not the same as holding." Still, Water lowered his head. "She learned before I did. No one learns at the same time. This is another cause of suffering. We expect people to understand when we understand, to forgive when we are ready, to change at the speed that comforts us. But each life moves through different conditions. The mother waited beside Water. The son hid among trees. Both were learning release. Neither could learn for the other. Still, Water asked, "Why did you come?" The traveler looked at the bowl. "At first I thought I came to find you." "And now?" "I think I came to bring a choice closer." The monk looked afraid again. "What choice?" "Whether to remain silent." Cedar interrupted. "Silence protects him." The traveler looked at Cedar with care. "Sometimes. And speaking may harm him." "Yes." "Then why risk it?" "Because protection without choice is another kind of control." Cedar became quiet. He had meant well. This made the truth harder. People who control us are not always cruel. Sometimes they are afraid. They have watched us suffer. They do not want to see it again. So they close doors for us, answer questions for us, decide what we can bear. They call it care. Sometimes it is care. Sometimes fear has entered the care and taken over. Still, Water looked at Cedar. "Have you been refusing people for me?" Cedar's face changed. "No one came. Before him?" Cedar did not answer. Still, Water understood. "How many?" "Two." The traveler felt the air in the clearing change. "Who?" "One monk from the river region, one trader." "When?" "Years ago." Still, Water stood. "You told them I was not here?" "I told them the person they sought no longer used that name." "That was true." "Yes. It was not the whole truth." Cedar looked wounded. "I was trying to protect your practice." "You were protecting me from choosing." Cedar's eyes filled. The traveler remained silent. This was not his argument to control. Still, Water turned away. He walked toward the prayer hall, then stopped. His breathing became uneven. The traveler recognized fear, not the fear of danger, the fear of a life opening after years of being closed. The temple had removed his old name. Now the name had returned. Arun, son, home, mother. Each word carried a world. The traveler did not call after him. He listened. Still Water's breath, Cedar's quiet crying, the sound of a bell moving in the wind. Compassion begins when we stop asking only, "What should happen?" and begin asking, "What is each person carrying?" Still Water carried shame. Cedar carried fear of losing the person he had cared for. The mother carried years of unanswered love. The traveler carried a message that could not repair everything. No single action would remove all suffering, but silence was no longer innocent. Still Water turned back. "I cannot go home as Arun." The traveler nodded. "Then do not. I may forget the road. I can walk with you. I may forget her face. She may remember yours. I may want to return here. Then return." Still, Water looked at Cedar. Cedar lowered his eyes. The traveler added, "You do not need to decide your whole life today." This was the lesson that had followed him from the farmer's field. The next honest step, not the whole road. Still, Water sat again. "What is the next step?" The traveler placed the bowl between them. Listen. To what? To what remains when fear stops speaking for a moment. Still water closed his eyes. At first there was only the forest, birds, leaves, a distant stream. Then a memory came. A woman humming while washing rice. A wooden bowl knocking against a table. His own young voice complaining that she held everything too tightly. The memory was incomplete. Still, it was enough. Still water opened his eyes. I remember a bell. The traveler said nothing. In our village, someone rang a bell at night during storms. He touched the carved bird. My mother said the sound helped lost people find the road. The traveler felt something move through the story. Does the temple have a bell? Cedar looked toward the prayer hall. Yes. Who rings it? Still water. The traveler looked at the monk. Still water's face had changed. He did not remember the road home, but his hands had remembered the rhythm of a bell from childhood. Perhaps for years he had been ringing the same pattern without knowing why. That night the traveler stayed in the temple. At midnight a bell sounded through the forest. 3 slow strikes, a pause, then 2 more. Still water stood beneath it with the rope in his hands. The sound moved through the trees. The traveler listened. Somewhere far away, beside a river, a woman might have remembered the same rhythm. And by morning, the traveler would understand that the man he had found was not only hiding from his old life, he was still calling to it. The bells sounded at midnight, 3 slow strikes, a pause, then 2 more. The traveler stood beneath the dark trees and listened. He had heard that rhythm before, not in the forest, beside the river. The woman had once told him that during storms, someone in her village rang a bell to guide lost people home. 3 slow strikes, a pause, then 2 more. Her husband had rung it. Later, her son had learned. The sound was not only a signal, it was part of the family. A memory carried through metal. Still water stood beneath the temple bell with both hands around the rope. His head was lowered. The final sound moved into the forest and faded between the trees. The traveler felt no doubt now. This was Aaron, not because of the bowl, not because of the carved bird, not because he had whispered, "Mother." His hands remembered what his mind had forgotten. The body can hold what memory loses. A song, a movement, the way a hand folds cloth, the rhythm used to knock on an old door. Things repeated through love can settle deeper than names. Still, water released the rope. The traveler stepped closer. Who taught you that rhythm? Still water looked at the bell. No one here. Then where did you learn it? I do not know. The traveler waited. Still water touched the rope again. My hands do it. Every night? Only. When I cannot sleep. Why? The monk looked toward the forest. It feels like someone is listening. The traveler felt something tighten inside him. For 7 years, the woman had sat beside the river waiting. For 7 years, her son had been ringing a bell into the forest. Neither knew the other was still calling. This is one of the deepest forms of human pain. 2 people loving each other from separate places, both believing the distance means the other has stopped reaching. One waits beside water, one rings into trees. The message exists. The path between them does not. The traveler said, "Your mother told me about this bell." Still water's hands closed around the rope. She remembered the rhythm. Yes. What did she say? That it helped lost people find the road home. Still water looked away. The traveler saw fear rise again. The bell had been safe when it belonged only to his body. Now it had become a bridge. A bridge creates possibility. Possibility creates choice, and choice creates fear. Still, water stepped away from the bell. I am not going back. The words came quickly. The traveler did not argue. Still water looked at him. You came here to take me home. No, you crossed the forest for my mother. Yes, then you want me to return. I want you to know she is alive. I know now. And that she believed you were dead. I know that too. Then what you do next is yours." Stillwater looked suspicious. He had expected pressure. People often defend themselves before anyone has attacked. They have argued the same case inside their minds for years. By the time another person speaks, the answer is already waiting. Stillwater said, "She will not understand." Perhaps not. She will ask why I stayed away. Yes, I do not have an answer. You have many answers. None of them are good. The traveler sat beneath the bell. Stillwater remained standing. The night air was cold. A moth moved around the temple lamp. The traveler said, "You became confused near the river." Yes. You could not remember the road. Yes. You joined the monks. Yes. You were afraid to return changed. Stillwater's face tightened. The traveler continued, "You sent the bowl back. The message failed. You did not know that. I should have gone myself. Perhaps." Stillwater looked at him sharply. The traveler did not soften the word. Compassion is not always agreement. It is not telling someone they did nothing wrong because we understand their pain. Stillwater had suffered. His mother had suffered too. Both truths mattered. The traveler said, "You were frightened. You were losing your memory. You found safety here." Stillwater listened. And then safety became hiding. The monk turned away. The words had found him. This is how many lives become smaller. At first, we step away because we need rest, because we are hurt, because we cannot carry one more question. There is wisdom in retreat. A wound needs shelter. A frightened mind needs quiet. But shelter can become a prison when we never test the door again. We tell ourselves we are still healing. Years pass. The fear becomes familiar. Familiar fear can feel safer than uncertain freedom. Stillwater had needed the temple. That did not mean he needed to remain hidden forever. He walked to the edge of the clearing. The traveler followed slowly. Stillwater said, "You think returning will heal everything?" "No." "You think she will forgive me?" "I do not know." "You think I will remember her?" "I do not know." "You know very little." "Yes." Stillwater laughed without joy. "Then why are you here?" The traveler thought of the farmer, the lotus seed, the path covered by leaves, the injured bird, the woman beside the river, the hungry child, the beggar. Each had taught him something about the limits of knowing. "I am here because not knowing does not remove responsibility." Stillwater became quiet. The traveler continued, "You do not know how she will receive you. She does not know whether you are alive. The uncertainty is not equal." Stillwater looked at him. "You have information she needs." The monk's face hardened. "So I should return because she suffered." "I did not say that." "Then what should I do?" "Stop making silence the only choice." Stillwater sat on a stone. His shoulders dropped. For years, he had divided the world into two paths. Stay hidden and remain safe. Return home and become trapped by the past. The traveler was asking him to see more possibilities. He could send a message. He could meet his mother somewhere between the forest and the river. He could visit and return. He could speak honestly without promising to become the son she remembered. Fear narrows the world. It tells us there are only two doors: stay and suffer, leave and suffer, speak and lose everything, remain silent and survive. But often there are smaller doors the frightened mind cannot see. Stillwater said, "I cannot live in that house again." "You do not have to." "I cannot become Aaron again." "You do not have to." "I may forget her while looking at her." The traveler felt the pain in this. That may happen. Still water covered his face. What kind of sun does that? A human one. The monk looked up. The traveler continued. A sick one, a frightened one, a changing one. Still water's eyes filled. She will look at me and see everything I am not. Perhaps. And what will I see? I do not know. The traveler paused. Perhaps someone who is not the mother you left. Still water remembered what he had been told. She opened the window. She left the riverbank. She gave away the bowl. The woman who once held everything tightly had changed. Still water had built his fear around an old version of her. We do this often. We avoid conversations with people who may no longer be the same. We carry an old insult into a new year. We fear the parent who has softened. We resent the friend who has learned. We assume time changed us but left everyone else untouched. Still, water said, "What if she still tries to hold me? Then you can leave." The monk stared at him. "You would let me." "It is not mine to let." This answer entered him slowly. At the temple, others had made choices for him in the name of protection. At home, he feared his mother would make choices for him in the name of love. The traveler offered neither control nor rescue, only company. Still, water looked toward the bell. I ring it because the sound feels like home. Then why refuse home? Because a sound cannot ask questions. The traveler understood. Memory is often easier than reunion. The dead do not challenge the way we remember them. The absent do not ask why we stayed away. A place held in the mind remains under our control. A real person changes, speaks, feels anger, offers forgiveness we may not feel worthy of receiving. Still, water had loved home safely from a distance. Returning would make that love real again. Real love carries risk. The traveler said, "You may not be afraid of home." Still water looked at him. "You may be afraid of being seen." The monk's face changed. This was closer to the truth. At the temple, his forgetting was ordinary. The monks knew when to guide him. They did not ask him to explain. They did not compare him to who he had been. His mother would remember the boy who laughed, the young man who carved birds, the son who promised to return before dark. He feared the grief in her eyes when she saw what remained. Many people avoid those who knew them before a loss, before illness, before failure. It is difficult to stand before someone who remembers our strength when we no longer feel strong. But being seen is not the same as being judged. Still, water had never allowed his mother the chance to know the person he had become. He said, "I do not want her pity. You may receive it. I do not want her anger. You may receive that too. I do not want her forgiveness." The traveler looked at him carefully. "Why?" Still, water's voice became small. "Because I do not deserve it." There it was, the deepest reason, not memory, not the road, not even fear of being controlled, unworthiness. He believed suffering was the correct payment for what he had done. Remaining away had become punishment. Some people hold pain because they believe release would be dishonest. They think forgiveness should be earned through enough years of loneliness. They believe returning to life would erase the harm. But punishment does not repair what silence broke. It only creates more silence. The traveler said, "Not deserving forgiveness does not make hiding compassionate." Still, water looked down. "You cannot control whether she forgives you." "I know. You can only control whether she receives the truth." Still, water remained silent. The bell moved slightly in the wind. A soft metal sound passed above them. The traveler asked, "What truth would you give her?" Still, water closed his eyes. "That I did not leave because I stopped loving her." The traveler waited. "That I became lost." Another pause. "That after I found a place to stay, I was too ashamed to return." His voice broke. "That I sent the bowl because I wanted her to know I was alive." The traveler nodded. And now? Still water opened his eyes. Now I do not know how to cross 7 years. You do not cross them all at once. The monk looked at him. You cross one day. Again, the next honest step, not the whole road. Still water stood beneath the bell. He touched the rope. What would the first day be? A message. The monk shook his head. Words failed. Before. Then carry them yourself. Fear returned. Still water stepped back. No. The traveler did not push. A forced return would only replace one prison with another. Trusting what is meant for us does not mean controlling people until they fit the story we hope for. The woman's healing could not depend completely on her son returning. The son's freedom could not depend on never facing the woman he loved. Each had a path. The meeting between them had to be chosen. Still water said, "I need time." The traveler nodded. The monk seemed surprised. "You will wait?" "For a little. What if my answer remains no?" "Then I will carry that answer to her." Still water looked hurt. "You would tell her I refused?" "I would tell her the truth with care." The monk walked away. The traveler slept near the prayer hall. Before dawn, he woke to the bell. 3 slow strikes. A pause, then 2 more. He went outside. Still water stood beneath it. When the final sound faded, he said, "I will not return home." The traveler's heart sank. Still water continued, "But I will walk to the river." The traveler looked at him. "I will meet her there. Not home, not the old house, not the life he had left. The river, the place where both of their paths had changed." It was not the answer the woman would have once demanded. It was not the full return the traveler had imagined, but it was a real step. Still water said, "After that, I may come back here. Yes. She may hate me. Yes. I may forget why we went. I will remind you." Still water looked toward the eastern sky. Light had begun to enter the forest. Cedar stood near the prayer hall. He had heard everything. "You do not have to go," Cedar said. Still water turned toward him. "I know." This changed the meaning of the choice. He was not being expelled, not being taken, not obeying guilt. He was choosing to walk toward what he had avoided. Cedar lowered his head. Fear and love moved across his face. Still water went to him. They stood close but did not touch. Then Cedar said, "Return if you need to." Still water nodded. The traveler picked up the wooden bowl. The road back to the river waited beyond the trees. But before they could leave, Still water stopped at the edge of the clearing. His body had become rigid. The traveler saw terror in his face. The monk had agreed to meet his mother. Now he had to face the life he had spent 7 years avoiding. And the next story would begin with the fear of returning to an old life that might no longer have a place for him. The monk had agreed to walk toward the river, but agreement was easier than movement. Still water stood at the edge of the forest clearing with a small cloth bag over one shoulder. The traveler waited beside him. Cedar stood near the prayer hall. No one spoke. The path was open. Still, water did not move. His body had become still in the way a frightened animal becomes still. Not peaceful, frozen. The traveler had seen this before. Fear does not always make us run. Sometimes it makes us unable to take even one step. Still, water looked towards the trees. "Once I leave," he said, "everything will change." The traveler nodded. "Yes. I may not be able to return to the peace I have here." "Yes." Still water turned toward him. "You keep agreeing with the things I fear." "I do not want to lie to you." The monk looked back at the temple. Morning smoke rose from the kitchen. A bell rope moved gently in the wind. Monks crossed the clearing carrying water. Everything was familiar, simple, safe. Still, water knew when to wake, when to eat, where to sit, which path led to the stream. The temple had given shape to days his memory could not always hold. It had become more than shelter. It had become the structure around his mind. Leaving felt dangerous, not because the river was far, because the old life waiting there might reach inside him and pull everything apart. This is a fear many people know. We find a little peace after suffering. Then we become afraid of anything that might disturb it. We avoid difficult conversations. We stop visiting certain places. We refuse new love. We call this protection. Sometimes it is. But peace that survives only when nothing touches it is still living under fear. Still, water said, "The village will remember who I was." Yes. They will ask questions. Yes. They may judge me. Yes. His face tightened. "And you think I should go anyway?" The traveler looked at him. "I think you should decide whether your peace is real or only protected." Still, water became angry. "You know nothing about what it took to find peace here. You are right. I forgot roads, faces, whole days." The traveler listened. "I woke in rooms and did not know how I entered them. I forgot names while people were speaking. I once walked into the forest and could not remember which direction led back." Still, water's voice began shaking. "The monks found me before dark." The traveler said nothing. "They never laughed at me." "No." "They never asked why I could not be normal." "No." "They gave me one task at a time." The traveler thought of the broom, the bowl, the path. Simple tasks can hold a life together when larger questions become too heavy. Still, water continued. "Here, I do not have to explain who I was." The traveler looked toward the temple. "That has helped you." "Yes. And perhaps it has also helped you hide." The monk's anger returned. "Why do you keep calling it hiding? Because you are afraid that being seen will destroy you." Still, water stepped closer. "You think fear means I am wrong?" "No." "Then what does it mean?" "That something matters." The monk became quiet. Fear often appears near what matters most. We fear losing what we love. We fear facing those we hurt. We fear returning to places that still hold our name. The presence of fear does not always mean turn back. Sometimes it means walk carefully. Still, water looked toward Cedar. Cedar had cared for him for years. He had repeated forgotten instructions, sat beside him during confused nights, guided him home when he became lost in the trees. Still, water said, "What if I leave and cannot find my way back?" The traveler answered, "Then I will help you." "What if I forget why we are going?" "I will remind you." "What if I see my mother and remember nothing?" "Then she will meet who is there." The monk shook his head. "That will hurt her." "Perhaps. I do not want to cause more pain." The traveler understood. This was the reason fear often gives when it wants to remain in control. I am protecting them. I am staying away for their sake. I am silent because the truth would hurt. Sometimes this is true. Sometimes it allows us to avoid the pain of being known. The traveler said, "You are not choosing between causing pain and causing none." Still, water looked at him. "Your silence already caused pain." The words landed heavily. The traveler continued gently. "Returning may cause another kind, but pain is already here." Still, water looked down. We often delay difficult truth because we want a painless choice. There may not be one. Speaking may hurt. Silence may hurt more. Leaving may hurt. Staying may slowly empty us. Wisdom is not always finding the choice without suffering. Sometimes it is choosing the suffering that opens a door instead of the suffering that keeps every door closed. Still, water sat on a stone. "I thought Buddhist practice was supposed to free me from the past." The traveler sat nearby. "Perhaps it frees you from being ruled by it." "What is the difference?" The past can remain without deciding every next step. Still, water looked toward him. The traveler continued, "You do not need to become the son you were. You do not need to live in the old house. You do not need to promise your mother a future you cannot give. Then what do I need to do? Meet what is true now." Still, water looked away. The answer was too simple. Simple answers often disturb us because they leave nowhere to hide. The traveler said, "The forest gave you peace because it removed many things. Noise, yes. Questions, yes. Expectations, yes. Then why is that not enough? Because life will not always remove everything that troubles you." Still, water listened. If peace depends on silence, what happens when someone speaks? The monk said nothing. If peace depends on no one remembering your old name, what happens when someone says it? Still, water's hands closed. If peace depends on never seeing your mother, then your mother still controls your peace from far away. The monk looked at him sharply. This truth hurt. He had believed distance made him free, but fear had kept the village inside him. He thought of the bell. Every midnight his hands rang the rhythm of home. The past had not disappeared. It had only become quiet. The traveler said, "True peace is not a room where nothing difficult enters." Still, water looked toward the forest. What is it then? A mind that can meet difficulty without becoming lost inside it. The monk breathed slowly. The Buddha did not teach peace as the absence of all pain. He taught a way of meeting pain without adding endless resistance. The body hurts. The mind says, "This must not be happening." A person leaves. The mind says, "My life is over." A memory returns. The mind says, "I cannot bear this." Suffering grows around what is already painful. Peace does not always remove the first pain. It stops building walls around it. Still, water had found calm in the temple, but he did not yet trust that calm enough to carry it beyond the trees. This is another kind of attachment. We can become attached to spiritual places, to quiet routines, to the version of ourselves that exists only when life is gentle. We begin protecting our calm the way others protect money. We avoid people who challenge us. We call discomfort bad energy. We call difficult duties distractions. But any peace that needs the whole world to behave may be only a carefully guarded condition. Still, water said, "You want me to test my peace?" "No. Then what?" "I want you to stop treating peace like something the village can steal." The monk looked at him. "The village did not give you peace." "No. Then perhaps it cannot take all of it." Still, water considered this. The traveler continued, "You learned to breathe here." "Yes." "You learned to return to one task." "Yes." "You learned that confusion passes." "Sometimes." "Then take those things with you." Still, water touched the cloth bag. It held only a robe, a bowl, and a little food. Nothing visible inside it looked like peace. Yet perhaps peace was never something stored in a place. The forest had taught him practices, attention, breathing, returning, kindness toward his own frightened mind. These could travel. Still, water looked at Cedar. "What do you think?" Cedar took time before answering. For years he had feared this moment. Part of him wanted still water to remain, not only for protection, because he loved him, because caring for him had become part of Cedar's own life. If still water left, the temple would change. Cedar would lose the role he knew. This is another truth hidden inside care. We sometimes hold people because helping them gives us purpose. We tell ourselves they need us. Sometimes we need to be needed. Cedar walked closer. "I think I made this place too small for you." Still, water looked surprised. Cedar continued, "I believed safety was the same as freedom." His voice was quiet. "I told myself that keeping the past away would protect your mind. It did protect me." "Yes. Then you were not wrong." "Not completely." Cedar's eyes filled. But care must change when the person changes. Still Water lowered his head. Neither monk had done everything right. Neither was the enemy. This is often true in human relationships. One person protects too much. Another hides too long. Both are afraid. Both love badly because they do not know a better way yet. Compassion does not demand a villain. It asks what fear has been doing through each person. Cedar placed one hand on Stillwater's shoulder. "You may return." Stillwater nodded. "And if I do not, then I will still be grateful you were here." The monk's face broke. For years he had feared every departure as rejection. Now Cedar gave him a different ending. Leaving did not erase belonging. The temple could remain part of his life without holding him inside it. Still Water looked toward the path again. It was still open. The trees had not moved. The fear had not disappeared. But something inside the fear had changed. It no longer said, "If you leave, peace is gone." Now it said, "You do not know what will happen." That was true. Truth is easier to carry than prophecy. Still Water stood. He took one step, then stopped. The traveler waited. The monk took another. Cedar remained behind them. No bell rang. No sign appeared. No sudden courage filled Stillwater's body. His legs shook. He walked anyway. This is what courage often looks like. Not confidence, not certainty. A frightened body moving toward what matters. They entered the forest. Stillwater turned back many times. Each time, the temple remained visible. Then it became smaller. Then only the roof could be seen. Then nothing. Still, Water stopped. "It is gone." The traveler looked back. Yes. The monk's breathing became fast. The forest seemed different from this side. The same trees, the same sounds. But now they stood between him and safety. The traveler said, "Feel your feet." Still Water looked down. What? Feel the ground beneath them. The monk tried. "Breathe once." He breathed. "What is here?" "Trees." "What else?" "The path." "What else?" "You." The traveler nodded. "What is not here?" Still Water looked around. "The village." "Then you do not need to face the village yet. Only this part of the forest. Only this breath. Only this step." The mind travels farther than the body. It imagines the mother's face, the questions, the judgment, the old house. The whole future arrives at once and becomes unbearable. Practice returns us to what is actually here. Still Water began walking again. At midday they rested near a stream. The monk looked at the water. "I used to think the forest saved me. Perhaps it did. And now I'm leaving it." Being saved by a place does not mean you must remain there forever. Still Water touched the surface of the stream. "What if the village destroys what I became?" The traveler said, "Then perhaps what you became was not yet stable." The monk looked hurt. The traveler added, "That is not failure." Still Water waited. "It means the practice must continue there." The monk nodded slowly. The forest was a classroom. The village would be the test. Not a test he had to pass perfectly. A place where the teaching would become human. Could he breathe while his mother cried? Could he remain present while shame rose? Could he speak truth without running? Could he let her anger exist without treating it as danger? Could he leave again without disappearing? These were not questions the forest could answer for him. Some lessons require another person. This is why spiritual life cannot remain only private. Patience is tested by people. Compassion is tested by pain we cannot fix. Non-attachment is tested by what we love. Peace is tested by noise. By evening they reached the edge of the forest. The land opened before them. Fields stretched toward the west. A road curved down the hill. Far beyond it, hidden by distance, was the river. Still Water looked at the open land. His face became pale. The traveler stood beside him. "You can turn back." Still Water looked toward the forest, then toward the road. For a long time, he said nothing. At last he stepped into the open. The wind touched his robe. There were no trees around him now, nothing to hide behind. He said, "Peace should be able to stand here too." The traveler nodded. They began walking toward the river. But before they reached it, the road would break beneath a landslide, and the path home would become longer than either of them expected. The wheel broke again. This time, the merchant did not curse at first. The cart had already crossed the narrow bridge. The horses stood safely on firm ground. Behind them, dark water rushed beneath the wooden boards. Ahead, the road disappeared into the night. The merchant climbed down and stared at the damaged wheel. The wooden pin Stillwater had made had split. One side of the cart leaned toward the earth. The traveler and Stillwater stepped down beside him. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the merchant kicked the broken wood. "I knew this repair would not last." The traveler looked at him. "A few hours ago, you called the first broken wheel a blessing." That was before it broke again. The merchant pulled at the wheel. It did not move. "This delay will ruin me." His old fear had returned quickly. This is how the mind often works. A lesson feels clear when the danger has passed. Then another problem appears, and we return to the same fear we thought we had overcome. The merchant walked around the cart. "My goods must reach the western market tomorrow." Stillwater looked into the darkness. "How far is the market?" "Half a day if the cart is moving." "And now?" The merchant pointed at the broken wheel. "Now we are trapped here." He opened one of the boxes and checked the cloth inside. "The buyers will not wait. They will purchase from another trader." The traveler remained quiet. The merchant continued, "If I miss the market, I cannot pay the people who supplied these goods." His breathing became faster. "If I cannot pay them, they will stop trusting me." He closed the box roughly. "If they stop trusting me, my business is finished." One broken wheel had already become the end of his entire life. The mind can move this fast. Something small happens now. Fear runs into tomorrow and gathers every possible disaster: lost money, lost trust, lost work, a ruined future. The merchant was no longer standing beside one broken cart. He was standing inside a life that had not yet fallen apart. Stillwater sat on a stone near the road. "You do not know that your business is finished." The merchant turned toward him. "You know nothing about trade." "That is true. Then do not speak." Stillwater nodded. The merchant seemed surprised. He expected an argument. Stillwater only said, "I know something about believing fear before anything has happened." The merchant stared at him. Stillwater touched the small wooden bird hanging around his neck. "For 7 years I believed returning home would destroy the peace I had found." "And did it?" the merchant asked. "I have not reached home yet." "Then perhaps your fear is correct." "Perhaps." Stillwater looked down the road. "But fear has already lived through the meeting many times. I have not lived through it once." The merchant became quiet. This is what worry asks us to do. It asks us to suffer the future before it arrives. Sometimes we suffer it every morning. The difficult conversation, the illness, the rejection, the failure. We repeat the imagined moment so often that it begins to feel more real than the life happening around us. Then the true moment arrives. It is rarely exactly as we imagined. Sometimes it is harder, sometimes it is easier, but it is real, and reality can be met one breath at a time. The merchant looked at the wheel again. "What should I do? Pretend it is not broken?" "No," Stillwater said. "Pretend I will not lose money?" "No." "Then what?" "Meet the broken wheel before meeting your ruined future." The traveler looked at Stillwater. The monk had carried the lesson of the forest onto the road. At the temple, he had returned to the breath when fear came. Here he returned to what was truly present: one wheel, one road, one night. The merchant lowered himself beside the cart. He examined the broken pin. "We cannot repair this in the dark." "There may be a village nearby," the traveler said. "The nearest village is several miles behind us." "Then we stay here until morning." The merchant looked horrified. "Beside the road?" "Yes." "With all these goods?" "Yes." "Thieves could take everything." Still Water looked at the empty road. "They could." "You speak as though that does not matter." "It matters." "Then why are you calm?" Still Water thought before answering. "I am not calm about everything." He looked into the darkness. "But I am trying not to fear 10 problems when only one is here." The merchant sat beside the cart. His anger remained, but it had become tired. The traveler gathered branches from beneath the trees. Still, Water helped him build a small fire. The merchant opened a sack and gave them bread. They ate quietly. The horses rested nearby. The road remained empty. Every distant sound made the merchant turn: a branch breaking, wind moving through grass, an animal passing between trees. His mind filled the darkness with robbers. Still Water watched him. "Your goods have not been stolen." "Not yet." "You keep adding those words, because something may happen." "Yes." The merchant waited. Still Water continued. "But what may happen is not what is happening." The merchant looked into the fire. "How do you stop thinking about it?" "I do not always stop." "Then what do you do?" "I notice that I am thinking." "That is all?" "Sometimes." The merchant frowned. "That sounds useless." Still Water smiled slightly. "It sounded useless to me too." The fire moved between them. "But when I notice fear as fear," Still Water said, "it stops sounding exactly like truth." This is one of the quiet powers of awareness. A thought says, "You will lose everything." Without awareness, we believe it immediately. With awareness, we begin to hear it differently. The mind is imagining loss. The danger may still be possible, but the thought is no longer the whole world. A little space appears. Inside that space, we can choose how to respond. The merchant looked at the boxes on the cart. "My whole life is in there." The traveler asked, "Is it?" The merchant became defensive. "These goods are worth more than you have ever owned." "That may be true. If I lose them, years of work disappear." "That may also be true." "Then why ask?" "Because you called them your whole life." The merchant looked back at the fire. The traveler continued, "Are you only these boxes?" "No." "Are you only your business?" "No." "Would losing them hurt?" "Yes." "Would losing them end everything you are?" The merchant did not answer. Many people place their whole identity inside things that can be lost: work, money, a house, a title, a relationship. Then change comes close, and it feels like death. Not because those things are meaningless, because we have placed our entire self inside them. The merchant had worked hard. The goods mattered. His fear was understandable, but the cart had become so large inside his mind that he could no longer see the rest of his life. Still, Water looked at him. "At the forest temple we were given new names." "Why?" "So no one would remain trapped by who they had been." The merchant laughed softly. "Did it work?" "Not completely." "What was your old name?" Still Water hesitated. The traveler did not answer for him. "Arun," the monk said. The name seemed strange in his mouth. The merchant repeated it. "Arun." Still Water looked uncomfortable. "That name belongs to the life I left." "Then why return to it?" "I am not sure I am returning to the name." "What are you returning to?" Still Water looked west, to someone who still speaks it. The merchant understood something in that answer. He looked at his cart again. "My father gave me my first box of cloth." The traveler waited. He was a poor trader. He walked everywhere. No horses, no cart. The merchant smiled faintly. "He told me never to build a business larger than the peace I could carry." Still. Water asked, "Did you listen?" "No." The merchant laughed. Then his eyes became wet. "I thought peace would come after my business became safe." "And did it become safe?" "Never. This is another trap. After I make enough money, after the debt is gone, after the children are settled, after the body becomes strong, after the problem ends, then I will rest. But the conditions keep changing. The amount that once seemed enough becomes the amount we are afraid to lose. Safety moves farther away each time we approach it." The merchant had spent years preparing to be peaceful. He had never allowed himself to enter peace. The fire became smaller. They took turns staying awake. The merchant took the first watch. The traveler slept beneath the cart. Still, water rested near the road. Before sunrise, voices woke them. The merchant stood quickly. Several people were walking toward them from the west. Their clothes were torn. One man held a cloth against his head. A woman supported another traveler whose leg had been injured. The merchant stepped into the road. "What happened?" The group stopped. "Robbers," one man said. The merchant's face changed. "Where?" "Beyond the old stone marker." The merchant knew the place. It was only a few hours ahead. "How many?" "More than 10. They blocked the road before midnight," the injured woman said. "They took money, food, horses, and everything else." The merchant looked at his cart. Still full. The man continued. "They attacked every trader who passed." The merchant sat down heavily. If the wheel had not broken, they would have reached that part of the road during the night. The cart could have been taken, the goods could have disappeared, the horses could have been stolen, their lives could have ended. The merchant touched the broken wheel. His hand rested on the cracked wood. "It saved us." The traveler said nothing. The merchant looked up. "The wheel saved our lives." Still, Water asked, "Do you know that?" The merchant frowned. "The robbers were ahead." "Yes." "The wheel stopped us." "Yes." Still, Water nodded. "Then the delay protected us from that road." The merchant waited. "But we still do not know why the wheel broke." Still, Water said. "What difference does that make?" "A great difference." The traveler understood. The merchant wanted to turn the broken wheel into a promise. First, it had been a curse. Now it had become a blessing sent only to protect him. But the wheel may have broken because the wood was weak. Rain had damaged the road. Robbers had chosen violence. Many conditions had met. An event can protect us without being sent only for us. We can still feel grateful. We do not need to pretend we understand the whole design of life. The merchant looked at the injured travelers. One had lost a horse, another had lost all his food. A family had lost money meant for medicine. The merchant's relief became shame. Why were we protected when they were not? No one answered. This question has followed human suffering for centuries. Why did one person survive? Why did another fall ill? Why did one house remain standing? Why was another destroyed? People often search for simple moral answers. The protected person was good. The suffering person must have done something wrong. But Buddhist wisdom does not ask us to judge another person's pain. Life is shaped by countless conditions. Our actions matter. The actions of others matter. Weather matters. Bodies matter. Chance matters. Systems, choices, and causes we may never see all meet together. The traveler said, "Your delay does not mean you deserved safety more than they did." Still, Water added, "Gratitude should open your hand. It should not place you above those who suffered." The merchant looked at the cart, then at the injured people. For the first time, he did not see only profit. He saw food, cloth, medicine, things people needed now. He opened one of the sacks. "Take what you need." The travelers stared at him. One man said, "We cannot pay." "I did not ask you to pay." The merchant gave them bread. He tore cloth into strips for their wounds. He opened a box containing medicine. Each item removed from the cart reduced his profit. Hours earlier, this would have terrified him. Now the goods looked different. They were not only money waiting to be made, they were help already present. The broken wheel had stopped the cart. The delay had interrupted something else too. The merchant's belief that everything he carried existed only for his own future. The hungry travelers ate. Still, water cleaned a wound. The traveler repaired a torn sandal. The merchant moved among them without looking toward the market road. By sunrise, one box was empty. The merchant stood beside it. "I may still miss the market." "Yes," the traveler said. "I may still lose money." "Yes, but I have not lost everything." "No." The merchant looked at the broken wheel. For the first time, he did not call it a curse. He did not call it a miracle. It was broken wood. It had delayed him. The delay had kept him away from the robbers. His goods had then helped people who had lost theirs. Meaning had not arrived all at once. Meaning was being created through what they chose to do next. This is often what trusting life means. Not believing that every painful event was personally sent to teach us. Not pretending that every loss is secretly good. Trust means meeting what arrives with awareness. A delay may not contain a lesson until we choose how to live inside it. A loss may never become a blessing, but it can still open compassion. A closed road may not reveal our destiny, but it may place someone in front of us who needs help. A farmer prepares dry soil. A traveler carries an empty bowl. A hungry child shares half. A broken wheel stops beside wounded strangers. No one sees the full chain while living through one small part of it. Still, every choice becomes a condition for what follows. The injured travelers warned them that the western road was still dangerous. The merchant decided to turn south toward a guarded village. That route would also bring still water and the traveler closer to the river. With help, they repaired the wheel again. Before midday, the cart began moving. Slowly. Still water and the traveler walked beside it. The merchant no longer complained about the rough sound of the wheel. Each turn was enough for that part of the road. By evening, dark clouds gathered again. The wind became cold. Rain began falling so heavily that the road disappeared beneath water. The horses panicked. The group scattered. Still, water called out. The traveler reached toward him. Then lightning struck nearby. For one bright moment, the whole road turned white. When darkness returned, the traveler was alone. Ahead, partly hidden behind the rain, stood the entrance to a cave. He ran toward it. Someone was already inside, a man with a knife at his side, and fear in his eyes. The broken wheel had protected the traveler from robbers on the road. Now the storm had placed him inside a cave with one. If this story spoke to you, stay with us for the next Buddhist lesson and subscribe as the traveler discovers whether fear can become the beginning of trust.